Hey everybody, it says I'm live. I started my usual start a little bit early. Just saw a few people were already got a couple viewers already, so I wanted to say hi to the viewers I already have, and feel free to type anything in the chat, of course. It looks like I already got 4, which is pretty cool. So people know what time it is now. I'm starting to get a schedule, stay consistent, which is good. I like to start the stream a minute early just to make sure everything's still working. Got some decent stream health. Had a couple dips in the stream last time from a connection quality point of view, but watching it back, it didn't look so bad. So hoping things go well this time too. Got a few things we might be making that could tax my computer a little bit that I'm hoping to upgrade soon. So hopefully that doesn't cut into the stream in some way if I get over 100% CPU usage or that kind of thing. But it's looking pretty good right now, so I think it'll be good. But once I start moving around things, opening windows, switching screens and stuff, sometimes the processor starts to chug a bit. Got an older one, but not that old, about 4 years ago now. So looking to get in the new Ryzen 5900X, Ryzen 9. But I guess it's really hard to get these processors right now. I don't know if you guys, if you're not looking for computers, you might not know, but the stock is just insane right now. Difficult to get. Same with video cards, actually, the NVIDIA 3000 series. 9 o'clock. Hey guys, welcome to my stream. Excited to start another one. It's what are we in? I think episode 4 we got here. Almost been doing these for a month now, I guess. Or I guess it's only been 3 weeks, but it feels longer. My name's Dustin, by the way. Thanks for tuning in. Really happy to have people watching. Please feel free to be active in the chat, say hi, that kind of thing. If you have any questions, that kind of thing as well. If you see this stream after the fact, please leave a comment. I'll respond to any comments, so I love seeing them as well. If you have any ideas for the next stream as well, please leave comments on that. Any kind of thing you'd like to see, any things you wouldn't want to see for the next one. If you guys are... just to say what we're going to be doing, by the way, we're building the OS, just in case I wanted to clarify that, the OS in React, and we're going to be using Next.js, React, TypeScript, Styled Components, Jest, Prettier, ESLint, StyleLint, Git hooks, Git actions. We've already done all that. Those are in the previous stream, so if you guys want to see how we've set up the project, it still looks a little hello worldy as far as what you visually see, but in the infrastructure is getting there, you know. And I'm pretty proud of it the way it is now, and we're going to be building on it today. So if you haven't seen my videos before, my name is Dustin Brett. I'm a software developer in Canada. Been working on, I actually made this project once in the past, by the way. I can show you a quick little link to it as well. This is the project right here, 1.33 thousand stars on GitHub, which is not too bad, which kind of spurred me wanting to do these streams. Had a lot of popularity with it. So this is the original code. I'm redoing it now, essentially, but I posted on Reddit a long time ago. It was very popular, and I really want to show people how I did it because there was a lot of interest on, hey, how'd you do it, you know? So, and if you have seen my video before, you might notice that I no longer have a beard. If you see any of my past videos, I had kind of a Santa COVID beard in the works, but I decided to kind of start a blank slate again, and it'll grow back soon enough, so I'm not in any hurry, basically. But yeah, with that, I think we can just jump right into the episode recap here, and I'll jump you guys to the Git commits. Let's look at the Git commits because that tells the story. That's the way I do it here, by the way. I do commits, hopefully for each little relevant piece, ideally, but it's not always the case. If you're working at a company or that kind of thing, or on an open source project, typically you wouldn't necessarily need to do that because you could do a PR request where you kind of done several changes, let's say, so you don't have to worry on a per commit basis. But because we're committing to essentially the master branch, I like to just kind of clean up the code and get it as nice as possible because my PR isn't really being reviewed by anybody. It's just me dumping stuff right into the main branch. So for that reason alone, it's good to do that. These videos, these streams are getting a little more technical, and they'll probably continue to get technical. But at the same time, I'm also posting videos. I just did one recently about how to start as a self-taught software developer. I encourage you to check it out. It took me an hour to record, actually, so it's somewhat long, but it's 15 pretty solid tips, and it kind of gets into some of the stuff that if you started following those steps and got into code, it would kind of make more sense for this stream. if you're not really technical and you're kind of, but if you like following along for whatever reason you want to watch the stream, even if you're not technical, it's great to have you here. And I'll try to dump in as many learning opportunities as I can. I don't know if that's the word for it. Got a message here from Shradhan Kumar. Excited for today after all the setup. Ah, nice. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that you're excited for today. And yeah, there was a lot of setup. And I'm going to do a little bit of tweaking of the setup. And that's a theme through all the streams, is that after a stream ends, I kind of think about what I've done and think, oh, is there any little refactors I could do here and there? So I'm always going to be tweaking the setup and stuff. And if you follow along, you'll see that, or if you just check the repo. But we kind of get through that at the start, and then we kind of move into the stuff that we've established now. So now we're at the point where we can start making some components. So that's going to be something we're going to do in this episode. After we kind of get through the maintenance, refactor, housekeeping stuff, yeah, we'll get into the system components. We're going to try to make the window today, a styled window, a process loader, a session context, a desktop background. I haven't decided where to draw the line there. We're going to look at some CSS tweaks and just kind of think about them. I'm not sure if I need them right at this point, but with CSS in general, there's always these opportunities to do little fixes like clear fix or normalize, or all these different little tools and tweaks they have for making the CSS work a little better. And we're going to look at adding a couple of those ourselves possibly. And then I'd also like to possibly get into the Lighthouse and W3C tests with a production build, because last time, if you guys remember, we did it with a dev build. And I just wanted to see with the production build and test our Lighthouse score, because I'm optimistic that we could get a pretty good Lighthouse score, but I don't know if my computer can give us the best performance rating while it's doing all the streaming and stuff. So it did good when I wasn't streaming, but we'll see if I can get the same performance rating in a live stream and see if we can get some fireworks from it. So yeah, getting back to what we've done so far as of the last episode, let me just get my recap list here. What's the first thing? The ESLint rules. So yes, here it was. It's from bottom to top, because the top one is the newest. So, and I always slip in the stream notes at the end. That's after the stream, so you guys don't see that one. But all of these commits here were the last stream, and we'll just quickly discuss them. So we did some more ESLint rules. We're always adding them. There's some pretty cool ones. That what was the one we did? I think for sorting imports or something. I can't even remember. We're changing it all the time. But I mean, that's the beauty of the commits too. By the way, I can't remember, but you can see here. Yes, I just added more recommended ones without having to install much else. And did I install something else? I think I installed one thing. Yeah, the Jest DOM and this here. Yeah. I guess I installed a little bit. I think this was based on some Kent Dodd's recommendations. The guy who made React testing library. He said, hey, you probably want to do this. So Styled processor, we didn't need that. We got rid of it. Just in case you guys missed the last stream, you don't need the Styled processor, guys. So I'm sorry about the yelling. I don't know how that works on a microphone. Updated styled component wrapping. What was that one, right? Sometimes these are hard to remember. Okay, right, yes, we don't need that theme provider and the global style. We've kind of centralized all of our main styled app, which is the global styling and theme provider. And that's actually what we'll discuss when we get into the session context. The main reason I want to get it going now is to have it be above the theme so that it can be providing what the theme is. And that will allow us to change the theme. But I actually haven't done that yet. I know it's pretty easy, so hopefully it'll be pretty good to do in this stream. But that's kind of one I just added at the last minute, so we'll see how that goes. I have that. That's one of the last things that we'll try to do in case I screw it up and we decide to just bail on that one for now, which happens sometimes. Sometimes I'll spend hours changing some files, and then in the end I just press undo all because it's like, I don't know where this is going, and the few little nuggets of code that I do want, I could just rewrite those in a minute, when I end up going back to it. But sometimes you do a bunch of that and then you just do a clean slate. Should I be following along on my local repo? You don't have to necessarily. No, I wouldn't say so. But you can take a look at the all these commits here. These will be in the show notes as well, by the way, in the recap, near the recap. But it's basically just the commits for the redo branch of my X project, because the master branch is still the old original code. So if you look there, you can just kind of see what I've changed. And if you've been following along on the past setup ones, but you missed one, you can just see if any tweaks I did are of interest to you. So there might be a couple, but yeah, like the Styled processor, let's say, it turns out we don't need that one. So yeah, that's something to check into. Yeah, thanks for asking that. Good point. Good thing to ask. What other things did we do here just to finish? Refactored index. right, I think we just moved around index. We reorganized the package JSON to be a little better organized, and we'll do a little more reorganization, a very minor reorganization of another thing I noticed. We also centralized the metadata. We did a lot of refactoring and extracting out stuff to make it look a lot cleaner. And I don't think we'll have to do too much more of that on the code as it is, because it's already getting pretty tight, which is why we have less refactoring to do today. I had to add just dynamic. Oh yes, because I started doing the dynamic components, and we're going to do a bit more of that today with the window component is also going to be dynamic, because when the page loads, you don't need to have the window component, but eventually you'll need it, So that's something we can make dynamic and make the page load a little faster, because that code doesn't need to be part of the initial page load, is essentially one of the key elements of these dynamic ones. And then I created the window manager, which I think we're going to probably not call the window manager in the end. But yeah, so that's it. So that's what I did. And I think now that we've gone through the recap, we can get into what I've titled as maintenance and housekeeping. And let's just jump to the code, and you can get a quick sneak peek of what I was talking about here. So maintenance and housekeeping. Before I used to have this in introduction, the check for NPM updates, but it's a maintenance of the repo kind of thing. So just to maintain our repo, let's get into it. And just in case you're not familiar with, there's not too much to not be familiar with here, but I got my little Hello World app here on the top right. That's our app. It's running right now. That's all it looks like. On the code side of things, though, it's just typical Next.js app. You got your app, you got your document, you got your index, and we've tried to clean it up a lot. So this is pretty typical to what you normally see, except it would just be this piece and not these two pieces. What is in this one? Again, this is pretty similar as well. It's a custom document within Next.js, but somewhat boilerplate. And then we've kind of extracted out the styled component part that we needed here. And the index as well, pretty straightforward. And we got a process provider here. And I think what I'm going to do is turn the window manager into a process loader, is what I'm going to call it, because essentially what I need to do, now that I have the provider storing the state of the processes, I need a component that's a system level component to essentially load those processes. And the reason I don't want to call it the window manager, first off, it's not doing any managing more than just loading. So I want to clarify that it's not a manager more than just a loader. A dumb loader. It's going to have a little bit of logic when it's called a process loader, and that there's going to be a has window boolean. I might have already done it, I'm not sure, but there will be a boolean, so it's going to know, should I encapsulate this process in a window or not? Because some of the processes won't have windows, such as the taskbar, the desktop icons, that kind of thing. So I want to do some rewording there, and that's always a theme throughout the project as well, is that I like to try to get the words perfect. So perfect meaning when you read it, you understand what's going on. So that's exactly why I'm gonna rename this, and we'll get into that in a short bit. So yeah, well, let's do the NPM updates then. Oh yeah, I was just talking to you guys about the structure, but there's really nothing else to talk about with that. So let's get into the updates. So we open up a terminal here, and we do our usual NPM outdated first, because I like to know what is outdated. So, and this is important too, because sometimes if there's something major, like let's say it's a Next.js update. Well, Next.js is our framework. So that update, there could be some breaking changes there. In general, with any of these packages, there could be breaking changes. But if you're going to be updating your main framework, it's definitely something to consider, especially if you're jumping to a new version. Although the way our package versioning is set up in package.json, I don't think it would, if you ran NPM update, it wouldn't automatically jump to a new major version. But it would jump to minor versions, and you can have some breaking changes there. Stuff can slip in anyways. It's happened to me. Because it's up to the people that make the repos to say what's minor and what's major, but something could be considered major that they considered minor, and then you run an NPM update and it breaks stuff, But in this case, it's stylelint, configs, ESLint stuff, types, nothing fancy there. So let's just do the update. And it's going to do the update like so. At a reasonable speed, I guess. Maybe when I have the upgraded computer, it'll be a little bit smoother. Hopefully when I have the upgraded computer, I'm going to move to 60 FPS for my videos. And I could do 4K in theory. My webcam is 4K, but I don't know if I have the graphics card for that, to be honest. So stay tuned. Once I update the processor, we'll see. I might even be able to switch to the processor doing the encoding for the video, and we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. So we've got our updates, and last time I forgot to commit these updates after I did it, because it's such a minor step. You forget, oh right, files just changed sometimes. But yes, the package JSON changed. And if we close this and we close that, and if we get this stuff out of the way, we can kind of see what changed. So yeah, basically just changed the versioning numbers. And what is it? This is major. minor, and I don't remember how the versioning works, but this is a standard versioning, semver. I just don't remember the naming exactly, but it looks like in this case it was the least important versioning. So you'd expect this to have the least breaking changes. This also likely would not. But if you're switching to a different version like that, that's when you got to watch out. It's like, okay, they've done a big jump. What have they changed, you know? Another message here from Shradhan Kumar. Would be great if we could have a video of the PC building too. Oh, totally, man. Yeah, I want to do it because there aren't even a huge amount out there of these building them with 5900X, especially for developers. I want to have it be developer centric. So it's a developer centric processor. I mean, it's for gaming as well, but I think it's like 12 core, 24 thread, extremely fast processor. So I'm hoping it also helps for my work as well. And yeah, I definitely want to do a PC build of that. I've actually built thousands of computers. Before I did development, I was in more IT and building computers at mom and pop shops and different shops, and built a lot of radio stations, computers for around Canada that run their software just because of the company I was working for. So I do have a lot of experience actually building computers. So I'm excited to do some computer centric stuff on this channel at some point. And it's good to hear I have some support from people. And yeah, I just got to find the processor now. They're all out of stock. That's my trouble right now with that. So we've done the NPM updates. We checked that the files changed. The lock file always changes, so that's no big deal. So let's just type this in. Did NPM updates. And just like that, we have a commit. We got our first commit. It's going to do all of its linting checks. Oh, man. I got YouTube complaining about something. It's telling me that YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, hopefully it's smooth enough for you guys, and you guys can tell me if it's a little too skippy. But I think this is getting back into the computer issue, because I'm also looking at Task Manager, and I see when I did that commit and it started running prettier and ESLint and all the git commit hooks, that my processor shot up past 100%. So it was skippy for a bit. Yeah. Well, I need a new computer, guys. So I'm sorry about that, but luckily you guys are still here with me. And if OBS crashes on me like it did one or two times in the past, I'll be back within a minute, hopefully. So please don't ditch on me. Or ditch and come back later. The video will be here, but I'm hoping to stream for maybe the usual 3 hours, but I don't know. Sometimes I get a bit like worried, like, do I have 3 hours of content? So if I don't, I don't. I never promised 3 hours. I promised 9 p.m. and here I am. But we'll see if it's 2 hours. We'll see what happens in the end. If I keep talking about it, it'll definitely be 3 hours because I'm wasting a bunch of time. So we've got our commit. It kind of chugged my computer a bit, but it's in there. Let's move on to the next thing. So I noticed this when I was watching back the stream, that for process directory in the utils, I made it a TSX. But if you look at it, it's not necessary to do any JSX here. So we can reword this to just be a TS file. So it's minor, but it's a type of documentation. And renaming the file has angered the app. So sometimes when you rename files or basic stuff like that, where you're not just changing lines of code, when you're changing like system files, config files, JSON, or you're renaming stuff, typically that's going to choke a running thing. Yeah, see, it's still looking for TSX. It doesn't even know, which is fair. I kind of pulled the rug out under it there. So if we rerun this, it should now work, you would hope. And now it does. So we got our hello world back. So don't panic, guys. So that was just a simple renaming. I don't know if that's going to cause all this linting and poor quality and skippiness to go, but let's see. We got to commit these in. I'm not going to dump a bunch of commits all at once just for the sake of my computer not chugging along. So we got to do it. Renamed JSX file to TS. I should say TSX file. So yeah, there we go. Now commit that, and that's going to run. Oh yeah, that got my CPU up to 80%. I don't know if that was enough. It was less than 100 this time. It didn't spike. Maybe because I didn't change things that required as much checking, perhaps. So anyway, we've gotten through a few of the basic housekeeping things. Now here's a good one, and I wanted to give credit where credit's due. This guy, Mark Gaze. I don't know if you're watching, but thank you, Mark Gaze. He actually noticed in my previous stream that if you guys remember at the end of my stream, I was kind of struggling along with a types issue, which happens often with TypeScript, where you feel like you got everything right, but it's not quite working. And yeah, basically, it was just a simple, I had called process instead of processes because I wanted to do about the processes, but I just didn't have enough S's, essentially, and an E. Just looking here at a message from Shradhan again. The wrapper could also be TS with, oh, maybe. No, sorry, it was a component. Yes. No, you're right that you're right to check it at least. Fair game. And I also thought that as well when I was renaming it. I thought, I should check that. But yeah, there is this little bit of JSX sneaking in here. Basically just this fragment here. But yeah, it's okay. And it's pretty minor and it almost makes no difference. I don't even know if the compiler cares that I have this naming structure, but it's a little indicator, and it's an indicator for the coders to know that, oh, there's no JSX there. But thanks again. Thanks for keeping an eye on things for sure. I really appreciate that. So let's do this little fix. I'm trying to remember where it was. It was in contexts. Yes, it was right here. See, I was like, oh, I'll make it a partial. And the partial is typically a cop-out. I feel like when you're like partial, you're like almost like, I don't know why it's not working. Sometimes that's like, it's like, I don't want to use an any. I want to still say it's a process, but I want to say it's a process where I don't know why it's not working. At least that's my mentality for why I used it. So obvious too, because it says processes right here. Like, oh man, I didn't even notice it. Sometimes you don't notice those things. It was the end of the stream, so it was probably like near midnight anyways, but processes is not a process. It's processes, like you'd expect it to be. So there we go. That just fixed a ton of that. See how all the little squiggly anger went away? And there was another piece that I kind of messed up to try to make this work in my desperate attempt, which was in here, I believe. Yeah. Where I was like, all right, we'll make this an any, you know? Anytime you're using an any in types, you're essentially giving up, I would say. So there we go. So I fixed that one. Thank you again, Mark. Yeah, so that's another minor change. We'll just double check what we changed there. Yeah, now we've got this correct again. It should be a component type, absolutely. And this looks much cleaner, much more sensible, as you'd expect it to. So fixed processes type. And, oh, we're going to push it again. Come on, stylelint. Don't. Stylelint, ESLint, all these pre-commit hooks. Oh, yeah, she went to 100% there. Well, can't be helped. At least it's only for a short amount of time, right? We're already back to 50. So there's that. We've got 3 out of the way already. What's the next one? Move process directory. Yes. I didn't really like, when you look at types here, and I have and this structure here, this part's reasonable because these pages are very structural to Next.js. So I'm going to put those there. They're going to stay there. That's where they're being used, I believe. Yeah. Components, pages, yes. But when it comes to this process directory, I really don't like that with the utils. I really think that processes and process, that should really be part of the context, I felt. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a type context folder. And in there, we're going to have the process. And this is to match the same structure that I have up here, contexts process. So in my types, it's contexts process. So just to keep your expectations up for that. And I'm going to move all the code that was in there over to here, like so. And I'm going to delete this entire thing. I don't need that. And I'll have to fix a few imports, most likely. But let's see what we got here. So now that makes a lot more sense. Within types, contexts, processes is where I think you'd expect these things to be. And now if we go to context, we can see it's a little broken here. We just have to fix this, I believe. Contexts, and we also have to fix that it's not going to be expected to be in the process directory. It's expected to be in the process contexts type definition file. Yes. So that to me looks a lot more clean, I think. And it's pretty straightforward what's going on there. We're going to do another refactor in a minute to make it even more clean. And we can actually do a little bit of that now because this type as well, any types we have, eventually we want to move into the type definition folder. So this is no exception to that. So let's cut it out of there and we'll put it in here. And it also relies on this, so that makes a lot of sense. And if this isn't used elsewhere, I could stop exporting it, but I've decided with TS type folder files that I'll just export everything. And it seems perfectly fine with that. As it would be, but it's fine, you know. So now we have to re-import this, and now we don't have to import processes here. We just have to focus on the context, which almost makes more sense, I feel. That's what matters here. And that's going to give us nice little, if you hover over, you see that's processes, so it knows it's coming from here, and it works all the way down, you know, with types. It's like you define it up there, and then it just kind of understands your code better. Sorry, I got a bit of allergies, unfortunately, but it's just part of my life. Always allergies, one day on, one day off kind of thing. So yeah, what was the thing we were doing here? yes, we were moving the types. We wanted to refactor the types here. And at the same time, we were moving it there. Yeah, I think that all fits together, honestly. I mean, I just mentioned it here as one specific thing. But yeah, that's very good. So let's say we refactored the process types. I think that works. And if we see, yeah, we just moved it from here into a file that's now a little more general, I feel like. So let's commit that and be off with that. And again, the CPU is quite angry with these pre-commit hooks, but they're done. So there we go. So we got that gone as well. And now I wanted to do this refactor of the context that I was telling you guys about. And I haven't seen anybody do this. So I'm almost worried that this doesn't make sense and I'm doing it wrong. But I don't know, to be honest. So I'm going to show you guys my idea that I've been doing. And I give it to someone else to tell me that it's wrong. It's functional right at the moment, but maybe something about it doesn't make sense. I feel like it's pretty clean. So basically my idea is within the provider here, you have your value, and you usually set your value here and just pass it as some object or something. But I want this to be a hook as well, essentially. And what was I going to call it? Do I remember? Oh, it's going to be very simple. Basically, and the easiest way to do this, so process context hook is the type. So I'm just going to call it use process context hook. And it's going to go here, and you're going to have to pass the same default that we're passing here, which is the process directory, right, that we've imported. And at some point, this will be just the startup folder or the startup processes, because those are what are essentially initial processes. Right now, we're just dumping in the whole directory of processes, but at some point, we'll make that just startup items. We're not there yet. I never even really had that kind of logic in my past one. That's just something we've added here to have this loading of all the components, whereas before the taskbar, the icons were things I was hard coding in. Now my current thinking is that those are all going to be loaded. So we'll see how that works. It's all going to be part of a process directory. So let's try that out. So here's the idea here. I got my hook, and I'm essentially just going to put it right here. And I'm going to cut that out. I just want to take that so I have it as a comment. I mean, it's pretty minor code, but I like to have those things to remember, like, what did I just take? And this is another piece we're going to take here. So we're going to make a hook. So we're going to have to make our hooks folder because we don't have one. So let's make a hooks folder in the root directory called hooks. And that's where we're going to put our React hooks that we make. And we're going to call the first one, like I said, we're going to call it that. Oops, I deleted more than I needed to there. So new file, use process context state. And is it going to have any JSX? I don't think so. Let's stop doing TSX by default and do TS, and then we'll add the X if we add the JSX, right? That'll catch us from adding TSX and then removing it later is kind of a weird way to do it. So this is the name of the function. So we're going to let's declare the function there. It's just a basic function at the moment. We'll probably do something with it here. And we export it as the default. That's our normal technique for doing that there. We're going to have to specify that this is, although it's not a functional component, what am I doing? We don't have to specify that. And we don't have to use props. We'll just have a default of, like we said, which is going to be the, what do we call that? Default processes, let's call it. Or we call it startup processes, right? Startup processes. And that's going to be a type of processes, right? And the function itself is going to be doing the things that this function was doing. So here's where we're taking a hook, the use state hook that's already part of React, and we're making a custom hook by taking that out and bringing it into here. And we could add more logic here, like if there's a use effect that's needed on startup as well, or any kind of other use states, we can just dump them all in here. And then you have all these like React hook functions that are all part of your custom hook, which is something that I really like, and that's why I've decided to start using custom hooks more. So we don't need use state there. I'm going to copy that though, because I want to be really lazy and just, I'm a copy paster. I've told you guys this before, but I like to copy and paste as much as possible and type as little as possible. There's probably some technique there. Got another message from Shradhan here I wanted to check out. Is process loading an OS thing, or is it a design principle that you are following? Well, I looked it up a little bit, the idea of loading processes and just having a loader type of thing. And there is some operating system similarities there, but I don't think it's going to be exactly the same, to be honest. And that's where at some point we're gonna be deviating from the logic of how this works, because on actual OS there's just so many layers and so many things going on, and we might get there, but we're starting very basic with this concept of a loader. At some point we might decide, oh, the loader doesn't make sense, but I'm trying to keep things as modular and abstract as possible, so that if we do change things, hopefully we can reuse a lot of stuff still. But yeah, it's been difficult to think, how am I going to make this just like an OS, and how's the logic going to be? Like, how does Windows load a process? I have to do it just like that, you know? I don't think it's going to be that way, but we'll see. I'm kind of always iterating as I go along. And if you guys have any other ideas or any refactors or anything, please feel free to suggest them in the comments or make a PR or something like that, and we'll look at it and we'll talk about it in the next stream. So yeah, getting back to this, this is what I want to return, because that's what is going to go there. So I say return. Get rid of those comments. So you see we made a pretty basic hook that kind of shows what the context state is right now, which is very little. It's essentially just that. We got to import this type here. Yes, exactly. And it's going to want us to fix the types, which we'll do. And what's it complaining about now? It probably, yes, it's missing return type, of course. I need to tell it what the return is here. Well, the return is this, which we've obviously already established is the process context state. So very simply, we can just do that. And there you go. And we have to import that as well, of course. And we're going to add it. Oh, add it right there. Nice. So very clear there. And now when we're thinking about the process context, we know what we think about its state, rather than having to look at code that also has the provider, that talking about children and stuff. No, we have a specific file that's the hook that just focuses on what is the state about, what does the state have to do? So that's like a real nice separation that I feel I like. And also it lets us clean this up too. We don't have to have the return anymore, and we can do it this way, which is what I prefer, which is where we just are returning a straight JSX component. And we have to import this. And this time it knows about it. We save these, and there we go, and it still works. So I feel like that's a lot more clean, because then when you go into the process context, you're really not surprised by anything here. I mean, maybe you're like, oh, I've never seen this pattern of the value being a hook, which maybe is an anti-pattern. I don't know. Maybe it causes some kind of rendering hell or loop or something. I'm not sure, but I like the simplicity of it. So I'm hoping we can continue to use that. And as the program gets more complex, then we'll kind of catch those bugs. It's a little hard to catch with this hello world thing, because there's just so little interactivity going on. So it's hard to say what's going on with it, but it seems okay at the moment this way. And like I say, this refactor is just so clean to me. You see, we get the process context here, and then we export a provider and a consumer. And the provider, all it's doing is wrapping the provider here in the children. And if you want to know what the state of it is, you go to a different context. You forget about all this, and you just go, okay, I'm thinking about what the process state is now, the process context state. And then you can see, okay, well, it was passed. It's expected to be past startup processes. So that's what was being passed there in the previous file, which I closed for some reason. Or did I? Yeah, I did close it. But just trust me, I'll just open it again, just so we remember. Yeah, so we know here that it's being passed. That's the startup stuff. And if we hover over this, it tells you startup processes. So some self-commenting there. Because some people are crazy, like they want to have JS docs for everything. I mean, there's some coolness to that. Like Google, I think, does that. Lots of people do that. And it doesn't hurt to be very explicit, and it'll be nicer, sure. When you hover over, you'll get more information, and someone can say exactly what they expect there. And it's a nice way to do comments, the JS doc style. And we might get into that at some point. We might need it. But I also feel like it's pretty nice context to just say startup processes, I mean, do I have any questions when I see something like that? I don't think so. So I guess you guys are going to have to tell me at certain points if something doesn't look clear, because I'm obviously biased, because it's clear to me because I wrote it, So I'm going to run prettier here to just have it clean this up, because I know that this is going to probably, yeah, exactly. Going to have to fit on that shorter line. Let me close these, because that's just wasting resources. So they're even more clean. So this doesn't have too much right now. In the future, it's going to have things like, I want the process context to also export functions for open and close. And those are going to be bound to the dispatch function of how we have the state right now. So there will be like update processes here. I'm not going to do this right now because I don't have a ton of other stuff required for this, but you can essentially bind, like this is the dispatch function that will allow this to be updated, which will kind of trigger the whole thing. So I'll have open and close functions that I also export that can be accessed through the context, where you just say open this ID, and then it'll properly know how to update the right context, and it'll do it all for us. And it's going to be a lot cleaner this time. Last time I was really weird with how I did the props. It's like I used context, but then I only half used it. And then I called context at a higher level component and then passed it down a bunch when I didn't need to. I don't know why I did that, you know? It's one of those things where when you stand back, you go, oh, why did I do it this way? It makes no sense. So I think we're done our refactor. I think, yeah, that's pretty clean. I'm happy with that. Let's take a look at the changes. So we look here. So we changed quite a bit here in that we got all of the React hook, the raw React hook code. And that's something I like to get out, is like when you're seeing use states and use effects, it's hard to know. It's like which ones are connected. It's like which state is connected to which effect. Because typically, like let's say it can get out of hand so quick. You can have 3 use effects and 7 use states, and they can be doing different things. And if you extract that out into 2 or 3 custom hooks, it's so much clearer what's going on. And then it's just beautiful, honestly. Custom hooks I can't say enough good things about them. You see how it's refactored this code to be a lot cleaner. And if you look at the processes, oops, that's the same file. And if you look at this one, you see everything's been extracted out. So now it's very clear that's just all that's necessary for the state of the process context. And yeah, with that, I think we can push that one out. So let's say we refactored the process state context. Exactly. And it's doing its little thinking, as it always does. Went to 97%, my processor. We got another good one. We haven't had any pre-commit hook errors, which is nice. And that's what happens. You write cleaner code and you get less errors when you have all these rules in place that are constantly warning you and allowing you all these auto fixes options. So you see that I was writing a lot of clean code because there were so many things being fixed for me there. And I guess it could have fixed a few things in the background that I may have written wrong. I'm not sure. That's one of the things with the pre-commit auto fixing, is that it might have tweaked a few things to be more fitting the rules, and you might not even know it, depending on how you have your IDE set up. And I'm thinking next stream we're going to get into that, where we're going to talk about a VS Code workspace file for our repository, so that when someone clones our repo, VS Code will say, for this repo, we suggest these extensions. Because there are some extensions I do suggest that are going to help. And there's more you could have, honestly. I got, so editor config, ESLint, stylelint, styled components. I would say those are the only ones that we really need, because we use all those technologies, and having those extensions is going to add functionality that's going to help you work with that repo. So I think it's very reasonable, these VS Code workspace files, and I want to start using them more, essentially. So we've done that as well. We're still at the maintenance part. We're still at maintenance and housekeeping. I guess this has gone beyond housekeeping too. We're doing a lot of interesting stuff, I feel. So the next one, and this one's cool, and this one I talked about last stream, was when we were doing stylelint, if you guys remember. Let me get to the styled components and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Exactly, right here. So if we were to press dot there, it has no idea what to recommend. It does not know what the theme is. You see here it says theme any. I do not like that. And that is something that I found that we can actually fix in a very clean way, so that we can have a defined theme as well that is also type checked. And that's going to be really cool. That's going to be cool for autocomplete too, because if I go dot in my colors, I'm going to have a suggestion of all of our colors, primary, secondary, whatever we have. I'm not going to have to remember them. They're going to be autocompleted for me. So I'd like to get into that, and that's when I have my first link here, because I do not remember how to do that. And now we can look at the browser for a little bit and see our first link of the day, which is styled components, create a declarations file. And they say here, TypeScript definitions for styled components can be extended by using declaration merging, which sounds pretty cool, and I've tested it and it works. So essentially here's the demo of how to do it, the example, and that's pretty good. And so they want it to be in a styled.d.ts file. Okay. I think they want this on the root. Or, well, they don't really say, to be honest. And I actually found out you don't need to put it on the root. So I'm actually not sure I want to. And I really like the idea of having it in the styles folder itself, because that's what it's all about. It's about styles, right? So what was it called? Styled.d.ts, I think it was called. Just double check that. Styled.d.ts. Yes, okay. I double checked that, by the way. I didn't flip to the camera, but just trust me. So let's paste here what I copied. That was their example. So it's pretty cool as it is. Looks nice. So we don't need these comments, of course. So we're importing the styled components, and then we're declaring it again. So we're essentially redeclaring, and we're extending the default theme to be the way we want it. And you can see here, they've even used the same logic of colors. I think that's because we copied our styled component demo, so they had the same kind of thing. But we don't need border radius. We don't have a secondary color, and we call our main color primary. And it is indeed a string. So let's just see if we save that, and let's see if that alone is enough. I can't remember if that alone is enough, but it might be. So now when we click dot, there we go. So now it knows about colors from the default theme. So now you can go colors and you go dot again, and we know about primary. And if you hover over theme, you see it says default theme instead of any. So just that little file change there, that's pretty cool, I think. That's a big one. And that's nice to have. And you see, what does it say? It updated this. I didn't change anything there. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so just like that, it changed it. And I want to quickly check the git commit that I did for this. Because where do I have this? I have a comparison of the branch where I started changing stuff. Because I wanted to see, just to be double sure, that I had changed it the same way. What did I do here? Refactored, moved, fixed, all these things. TS styled theme, exactly. I feel like there was a second thing I did here. Ah, yes. Even cleaner yet. Oh, right, because we have a definition, right? Do you guys, I don't know if you guys remember. I'd forgotten, obviously. But we have something in here. So we have the theme, right? That's correct. This fits the contract we got. But where was that? Was it in global style? I've forgotten where I had it. I think it might have been in the styled app itself. Let's just find it together, guys. Let's search for it. That's a nice thing to do. So theme, and let's see. We had it in here. We had it in a million places. Ah, okay. Ah, yes. So within the, this is really, that's where it gets tough when you have this folder soup. So it's in types, components, pages, styled app. And what I wanted to change is that we defined our theme here because I couldn't figure out how to do it the way I wanted. And it was for part of here, I believe. What was this for? Let's double check what that was for. Right, that was for the styled app itself to say what theme we expect. So now, rather than have this theme, it's going to be that generic default theme, which is default theme here. So we're going to update that type. And I just lost the file, sorry. So let me find it again here. Types, where are you? There you are. And so we just put default theme there, and we don't need our theme anymore. And now if we hover over this, it's going to hopefully import for us. Yeah, and it's going to want to do type. I'll just do it for it. Type. And that file is a lot cleaner now too. And now if we go to our styled app and we hover over what it expects, you see it expects a default theme, and it knows, well, it doesn't know default. I wonder if it can do tech checking now. So let's try doing this because I was having trouble with this before. I don't know if this is going to work, but if we change our JSON file now to be primaries and we check our styled app, oh, it worked. Cool. Right. Yeah. So this works now. I think this wasn't working before. I can't remember, but now it's being very strict. So now even our JSON essentially is being type checked. So I wonder if we add something and say secondary, and we give it a color, if it's going to also complain and say, hey, your theme shouldn't have secondary. It's okay with that. I'm okay that it's okay with that. But it definitely needed primary, and it knew that primary was no longer in the JSON theme. So a reason I like that is if other people start making themes for us for the project, it's going to be telling them that stuff. So they're going to know, oh, I need to do primary. I need to do this. And we have the option to set some stuff as optional. Primary is not optional, but if you go into this here, we could say primary is optional. And then when you define it in JSON, it wouldn't have complained probably. But like I said, we don't want that to be optional. So yeah, so we've really upgraded our types once again by having our styled components also be type checked and stuff. Yeah, type checked, is that the right word for it? To have it have types, whatever, typify it. I'm patenting the word typify. So in fact, I'm going to add it in the commit. So typified, I feel like that's not how you would spell it. Typified? Yeah, let's do that. Typified styled component theme. Components, themes. Yeah. Cool. Another improvement, right? That's what I love about just constantly making the app more like tight, or like, Every time I'm always looking to get different repos of like top companies, Google's or whatever, or even my company's repos. And I'm always thinking like, what linting rules have they done? You know, what tooling or apps or different things, architecture have they added to make developing easier? Because that's what most of this is in the end, is just to make developing easier. So with that, what do we have left? Oh yes, this is in regards to actually something that I noticed that one of my company's apps was doing, and I thought, oh man, that's cool. That's a cool way to do that. It's another minor improvement. But if we look at our Jest setup here, you remember how the first thing I did was do this import here, and now we have this preload stuff, this dynamic stuff. So we still need this for sure. But what we can do here, when we're just doing a straight import of the file, is rather than do that, we can actually go back to our config and we can declare it right here along with the other stuff. So we can say set up files after the environment, and we can be very clear that we want to set that up first. So that could be just listed here as an import, which is kind of cool. So now this setup is very specific to things we custom need to set up, whereas things we just want to import, add-ons, can be part of this list that we already have. So, which I find cleaner. So we remove it from there, and then we can remove 2 lines there. And essentially we got the same thing. And because we've changed a thing related to tests, I suggest we run in the tests and make sure they still work. Maybe I broke them from something else, who knows? Probably should have run the test earlier. If you commit, the tests do run. That's something we set up. And if they fail, you get an email. So if you were committing all the time, you would have already known if you broke the test, probably. Unless you broke it on this change, which we have not yet committed. So we didn't break it though. We got a green test. So that proves it, you know, in a way. And we've got an upgraded test. Very simple. So we just took it out of there and we put it in here. And I much prefer that, because then we can just keep adding them there instead of having these imports that are, it's debatable which is better. I don't think it is debatable. This is better. So we've changed it. So moved just import into config, because why not, right? Have them in the config. Because if we were only doing that, we could have gotten rid of the setup file altogether. So for that reason alone, I feel it's a better way to do it. Because if we didn't need JavaScript specific code in our setup file, we don't even need the setup file anymore, because we were just doing imports before. Move just import into config. Yeah, okay. Yet another improvement in the books. And I think at this point, it's time for us to push. So we got 7 commits we've already done, which kind of matches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. So that fits. We did 7 commits. We did all our maintenance and housekeeping. Let's push it, you know? So we pushed that to our redo app, and that's now part of history, essentially, part of Git history. And then we can move on to some of the changes. And some of these I've done, some of them I haven't. We're going to start getting more into my improvisation of coding at some point, which I don't know if people want to see or not, but I'm not always going to have streams where I have everything figured out, because I can always go back to my old code and kind of go, oh, okay, well, I could do this. But the thing is, I'm always trying to improve it. So sometimes I start getting very high level with like, do I even want to do it that way? And then I could spend days and days of planning for the next stream thinking about that. And then in the end, I don't have as much, you know? And that was a worry I had this episode, but how are we in? We're 50 minutes in, which is pretty decent. So I think we got at least another hour left, if not more. I think we're doing pretty good with the stream anyways. As far as content or things, I don't know if the quality of the content's good, but the quantity over quality, right? That's what I'm going for, essentially, is quantity over quality. That's a joke, by the way, if you couldn't tell. So let's just get into the system components. The first thing I think I wanted to build was window, was it? No, I think I want to get into the process loader, actually. Let's reorganize this. I want to do in fact, I want to do both of these. I want to do some context and loading first, so... or did I want to do this at the end? Let's just jump into the process loader first, because as I was discussing, I wanted the window manager to be named differently. So let's go right into the component, system component, and let's just call it the process loader. Process loader, until we think of something better, you know. It's going to want to update some imports. Let's say yes. So we broke the app. That's okay for now. We're going to have to rerun it. But before we rerun it, saying rerun is hard. Especially saying we rerun. That's even harder, so don't say that 5 times fast. But before we do that, we need to rename some stuff. So this is now the process loader. It's there. Oh, wait. It's not really just the process loader. I haven't even named the export yet. So how would it be? Yeah, here we go. I guess it doesn't matter because it's the default, but let's rename it here too. So, I mean, calling it the process loader, you see how right now it had nothing to do with window because I didn't even have a window component. So essentially it's done. Now it's the process loader and it's actually more accurate. So now it's kind of cool. So it's a process loader in that it takes the process context and consumes it, grabs the processes, goes through them, pulls out the component from the entry and the ID, which is the ID of the component, and it uses that here. And something we're going to want to do, and should I do this now? I won't do this just yet, but I want to pass ID as well, because you don't have access to key in the component as far as I know. I don't think you do. Key is kind of just important for iterating in React, but I don't think you can access that from within the component. And you see here ID, it's complaining because I haven't added the types properly yet. I'm not going to do this just yet, but I do want the ID because that's going to be an important part of not requiring passing of props. And that's something that I made a mistake with last time, is I think at this level or maybe one level deeper, I took the ID and then pulled every function I needed from the session, from process, and then I was passing that down to the title bar, to the apps, that kind of thing. All I really need to do is pass the ID, because that's going to be what's relevant to grabbing all the things you need from the contexts. So we're going to change that to be just passing the ID. And that's what we're doing here. It's a lot cleaner. Before I had a lot of this prop stuff like ... crap props, I had a ton of stuff basically. And I want to do that as little as possible. I did disable the ESLint rule that didn't like this prop type thing. I can't remember what they call this, but I disabled the rule anyways because Next.js's default app uses that. And I like the ability to use that. But I understand why the rule exists, because it is tricky and you're kind of just dumping stuff in there and maybe you don't know what you're dumping into the component. So I'm going to try to avoid it as much as possible. But we're not going to do ID for now. We're just going to move the process loader, I think. We fixed it there. That fixed the app just right there. So yeah, so let's just rename it for starts, right? So in fact, more than a rename, I've essentially made the process loader. It was never really a window manager to start with. And does anything else need to change for that? Did I do anything else window manager specific? I don't think so. It's all pretty much processes here. The styles, no, there's nothing in there. I'm going to be moving that in a bit. The components here, yeah, that's pretty clean. Yeah, so I think we clean that up. I think that just makes more sense as a process loader. Let's close these. Let's double check our changes. So we know our changes is pretty minor. This is just a rename basically, and a rename of this and that. And same here, just a rename. So we're going to say moved from WM to PL. That's just like a terrible commit message. Moved from window manager to process loader. There's no problem with being verbose, to be honest. I mean, at some point this complains that my commit message is too long. I don't know if that's a recommendation or if there's actually some problem with that, but I'm not going to go over the limit. Typically, I try not to. So that's good like that, just a rename essentially. I'm just going to readjust myself here, by the way, guys. As a typical programmer, I don't sit in a good ergonomic way. Even when I had the Herman Miller $1,000 chair at work, I still managed to sit very terrible. And I'm no different at home, work from home. Okay, so we've essentially made the process loader. Let's just see what we made, just to see if there's any other tweaks worth doing to it. I don't think there are, to be honest, though. So yeah, it's very, very simple for now. And like I say, oh yeah, there is. I wanted to improve on it. I wanted to pass ID because we're going to need that. I just like that. So let's pass ID. And at some point in the near future, once we get into having the window stuff, that's when we'll have has window here as well. Actually, and at that point is when we're going to need ID, so let's not worry about it for now. Let's just move on to the next thing. So I wanted to make a session context. We're definitely going to need one. And I'm actually starting to think, instead of having a window manager, window context, or anything like that, the session context maybe will just be what stores the window states as well. Like what you have open, its size, its position, where you have the icons for the desktop. Essentially everything. When a person loads the page, the session context is going to be where it remembers everything that you do. Except for files that you write, those are going to be stored in local storage because we're going to use something called browser FS to do that. We'll get into that at another stream, probably. I mean, for sure. Not going to be this stream, though. But that's the way we're going to do it, essentially. That's my plan. So let's get into the session context here. I just want to dive into it because sometimes we can get too high level talking about it and not just do it. So let's say in contexts, we're going to make something called session. TSX. It's also going to be a TSX because that's just how we need to do it. And we're going to be able to copy this. This is actually a pretty clean example of how we want our context providers to be anyways. So we'll take it. And we are going to need the consumer. Yeah, we'll need the consumer. So let's just change a bunch of this and see how that goes. And I almost wonder if this in the end looks identical, I wonder how we could refactor it to just be like a context maker, a context factory. Because what's changed here, the name of this, I mean, the name of a couple things, the default's going to change, I guess. Maybe we don't need to pass. Yeah, we don't really need to pass anything in the default. And I think within the context, we're probably going to grab the previous session from wherever we decide to store it. Probably in the application data or something like that. We're not going to get into that yet either. We're not going to get into saving the session in this discussion today because I need to think more about where we're going to save it. But that's what another thing the session context will do is when it loads, it's going to also check what's loaded. And another thing, of course, that it's going to set is the theme and what the user decides the theme to be, because that's literally what we're doing here. The only setting we have really right now is the theme. So, and the primary color, I guess, could be a setting. Just got another message here from Shradan that I wanted to check out. What has he got here? He said, or is it a design? I wish they had timestamps on the YouTube messages because it's just been Shradan messaging recently, so it's hard to tell which are his new ones. Sorry. Maybe we could have a function with eval and then call it from there to create these hooks. That sounds like a trick comment. I'm not sure. I don't know if you know, but I think eval it's pretty frowned upon to slip that in. It's a good idea because you definitely have a lot of dynamism with eval because you can pass in a string of whatever and it will convert that to JavaScript and run it essentially. But that's also a huge security risk at the same time, depending on how you have things set up. I mean, it might be set up in a way where we essentially never would allow the user to be passing this stuff into eval, but rather than even have to set up that safeguard for it while using eval, I'd rather probably just avoid eval for now. But it's something I'll consider. I mean, maybe you know something I don't for that, and I just have never used eval because I know people call it evil. I don't know if people call it that. It's a nice little thing you could do, but maybe it's gotten better. I don't know. It's a good idea anyways. It'd be cool as something to try too, like some kind of universal hook where you just pass in, like use eval and how you could go with that. It's a cool idea anyways, something for another show. So let's make our session consumer. Why did I do that? That should be session context. I just want to pass the word session because I got to change a couple things here. That's session context now. That gets that from there. Let's move this out of the way. So what is our default going to be for session? We're not going to pass anything. We need to have a session context hook as well. So we got to use session context state. So that'll be thought of, that's where the session will load from previous state. So we're not going to pass anything, I think, in the default here. Or one thing I guess we could do, we're not going to do that now, but you could do like get previous session state as a function, and then we could focus on getting the previous session state here. But I think that might make more sense to have that in the session context, because let's just let the session context worry about the fact that it needs to get a previous state, and let's not let this part of it think about it. I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, I need to think about where that makes sense to have that. And that's something where maybe on the stream we'll add it in one place and then the next stream we'll move it, depending on the comments I get. I'm just seeing here, Shradan here. There is a toggle timestamp. Oh, there is. Is there? Toggle timestamps. Well, I won't. Oh, wait, maybe it's right here. Oh, yeah, toggle timestamps. Oh, thanks, man. There you go. I'm learning something new every day. That's much more useful to see the timestamps. Thank you. Cool. So again, same thing here. I'm just changing session. I'm basically converting the process provider, the process context file to be a session one. This will be like that. Basically just switching the word process to session at this point. But we did have to change a few things. Like I say, we're not going to have a default here for a context for now. I guess we could. Yeah, I need to think about that one step at a time. And then the session context here, state is going to be from there, which is going to be from there. I like doing it this way too, where we're mocking up stuff, and basically we're setting the file up here, and now we know what we have to deal with. We know this file doesn't exist, and we know this file doesn't exist. So we're doing them one at a time instead of doing too much jumping around. And that can be a problem I have even in the streams where I do start jumping around. So I apologize in advance if that happens. So let's see what we got here. We got the session consumer, which we do need. do we need a provider? Of course we need the provider, don't we? How are we going to do this then? That's tricky. Well, one step at a time, right, guys? I got to keep saying that. One step at a time. Including one step at a time. Let's not even do this piece yet of having that or that. And let's just call this any for now. Because I just want to establish this working. And let's just hard code the value for now as theme. And it's going to be the themes.default. Ooh, why did it do that? No thanks, autocorrect. No help there. So we got our use state right here, like that. I just want to copy those out for now because I want to make this more simple. And for our themes, yeah, let's copy our themes from where it is right now, which is in the component, I believe. Where is that? It's in the styled component. Sorry, guys. Styles. Generic. No, it's not in the styled component. This is where I should just start searching more. See, the code gets more complex and then you kind of just forget where stuff is. That's an unfortunate thing, and that's where folder structure is supposed to help. But it's just not intuitive enough. If I can't find it, then the folder structure wasn't intuitive enough. So it was a component in pages, right? I think having it in pages is confusing me. I might move it out of there at some point because I have it in pages because it's a Next.js thing, but I don't know, to be honest. It doesn't totally make sense. So if we get rid of the default here, does it make sense to get rid of it there? Maybe it does. Maybe the styled component itself shouldn't worry about the default and we should let the session worry about that. Let's assume that for now. Well, let's leave this. It doesn't hurt to have that there, I don't think. Let's just get the session provider going. So that looks good like that. And now where does the provider need to be? The provider needs to be wrapping, I think, the app. I think, yeah, we would probably need to have it here. No, here would be the consumer, wouldn't it? But we're at the app here. Maybe what we do, we wrap the entire app in the session provider, like so. So then it's the components got it, and we need the components to have the session provider because they're going to be handling the windows. So we don't want it to just be wrapped around the styled app. So I think that makes sense. And let's import that in. Did I not export that? Why does it not want me to import that in? That's odd. Let's just try to type it in and see what's wrong. It's in contexts, session. There we go. And we do some sorting there. So yeah, that actually works. So that's just auto import not working half the time, which happens. So now we got it wrapped here. So now I think what we're going to do is we're going to use a consumer in the styled app to get the default. That makes sense. So rather than knowing the default here and loading it from this JSON, let's not worry about that. And let's have the session context do that. And it could be even right here, I guess. Session consumer, like that. I think that makes sense. Yeah. And then remember, this is a function now. And the function is going to be getting the theme, I think. Yeah, it always looks weird here, the syntax here, but I think that's correct. And I don't think I need this because I'm just going to be dumping the theme provider in here. Let's just try that. Dump that in like so. Yeah, exactly. What's it complaining about here? Theme is already declared in upper scope. Is it? Oh yeah, it is here. Right. Oh, so what do I do there? Okay, that makes sense. So I had allowed styled app to optionally pass theme, but I don't think that matters because we don't need that at this stage. We have it here. So it's going to be based on what the session is. So if theme changes, it's going to change here. That makes sense to me. I like that. So that worked, and let's run prettier. I mean, I'm saying that worked because there's no squiggly red lines, but that's not the qualification for whether it worked. So we'll definitely have to get into it a bit more. So let's see what we got here. So that looks pretty good. Actually, I mean, I guess it worked because it's running and it still says hello world. Let's try it. So let's just think about this for a second. Yeah, so we got our styled app. Our global style doesn't need to worry about the theme, but then we have our session consumer that gets the theme and passes it to our theme provider, which passes it to the children. That looks pretty clean. And on the app side, we got our session provider here, which is wrapping those two things. To me, right now, that makes sense. This is one of those things, maybe in the next stream we'll change it, I'm not sure. Because like I told you guys, I didn't have time to think about the session provider in advance. But it looks pretty clean to me. So on our main app, we got our metadata, and then we have everything in our main app essentially here is wrapped in session. And it makes sense that we wrap it there because we need it here and we need it in those subcomponents that'll occur here. Because yeah, we wouldn't want it to be outside of this context because we actually need it within the styled app. We're using the consumer, which we imported, did we? Oh, we did. I didn't remember that we imported it here. So that essentially is it for the session consumer as far as I'm considered. What else do we have to do here? Nothing. I mean, we don't have a way to set it yet. That's one thing. All right, we have to get back into the session. The session's a mess, guys. I totally forgot how messy the session was. And why is that? Because we haven't done this yet. First, let's make the type. So it's not processes, it's theme, right? And this is the initial state of the thing. So I think by the initial state could be null. Let's do that. The initial state is undefined, I guess you could do. We'll see how TypeScript likes that because TypeScript gets angry when you start undefining stuff. We might end up doing this, but I don't know if I want to do that. I'll save that. I'll put that in my back pocket, you know. Comment out these two lines like so. Comment them out that way so it complains less. We got that there. And then I wanted to do this as well at the same time. So let's just paste that in there. So there we go. It's about as clean as last time. Like I said, there's no default. Let's make these things so it stops complaining about those not existing. Let's just use exactly a copy of the hooks we did for the use process context state, which was extremely simple. And we'll make something basically as simple by doing session here. Get rid of the word copy. And essentially this is the same. Again, this is why I wonder if it could be refactored, but it's already so simple. I don't know if you'd want to refactor this. And I think they'll deviate from being repetitious at some point. You don't want to over refactor at the start. So we got that as session here. We don't need to worry about that. We're not using use state at this point. So really all it's doing right now is passing the default theme, which we decided, where did we have that? We had that right here. Yes. So we still need that. That's important to our context state. We do want to pass default here instead, right? That's why we removed it from styled app, didn't we? Let's double check. Yeah, we removed it from here, and now we're saying, hey, this is set to something. So we got to honor that, and we got to set it here. And we're just going to do that. It's going to be an extremely simple one. In fact, I'm just going to do this for now, even simplify it one step further. When you want to return straight JSON from an arrow function, from an arrow function, you have to wrap it in brackets first. It's just a little tip there. We call that. And like we said, there's no default anymore here. So you see how we very much simplified this. And I think Prettier is going to want to change this a little bit so it's on one line. It's going to clean these up as far as the order goes. Yes, we haven't made that yet, but let's run Prettier right now because I just want to see what this looks like. And I think when we do the VS Code workspace file, we might end up doing what Daniel had suggested a couple streams ago and having it when I press save that it just runs Prettier every time because it's starting to get a little tedious sometimes. So there we go. So you can see that the session context right now is extremely simple. It's just grabbing the themes and it's passing the default theme. So currently it's going to pass default theme, but in the future we're going to be reading what the previous session context was to get what the theme was if the user set it. And if they didn't set it, we'll just use default, right? And it might be a string at that point, and it might be something like user setting or default, you know? I don't know if I'll do that, but that's a way to do it. It's complaining about that, but it might not when we get all the code done. Now let's make the session context state, which is also a simple one. That's in, where is that? I keep forgetting where it is. Types, context, so it's in process right now, I believe, yes. So we'll copy that even though we're gonna use almost none of it. Sometimes I copy files and it's almost unnecessary, like I think almost everything here. I guess there's some wording here we can take. Session, we don't need any of that. And what are we exporting? We're actually exporting a default theme, aren't we? Theme, and we can just take that from what we used here in the styled app, which was the exact same thing, default theme. And what was the styled app again? Oh yeah, we actually don't need this anymore, guys, do we? yeah, now the styled app is just children. So actually it's just a basic functional component. So actually we don't even need styled app props anymore, which is kind of a nice one. So that was unnecessary basically. I like that. I prefer that actually. In general, I like it when it's just gonna be a straight functional component like that. So yeah, we didn't need that to be like that. Going back here, we don't even need this type file anymore. So we can delete that. And we've set this, and it's not optional, so we won't put that it's optional here. Definitely needs to be defined. And I think let's go check our session context again. So why is it complaining about that? That's weird. Session context state from, because it's looking in the processes here. Session, there we go. So I think we clarified that, and we might have to do it here too. Yes. But why is it saying unable to resolve path to module types, contexts, session? That actually sounds correct. So let me just double check why it's saying that. And it's complaining about theme. Oh, right, because theme I had just said could not be optional. Let's go back to our type. Oh, wait, so that worked, hey? Now it's fixed the type. It was complaining about this for a second. So if we go back to this here, go to definition. So I had said it's not optional, but it actually is optional because on the initial settings, the initial state is undefined. So I think we could actually, it's not optional, but it could be this or it could be undefined. I think might be all we need to put there. Yeah, that worked. So I like that. I don't know if you do or null. I'm not sure how you do that, but I like being very explicit that it's undefined, you know? The theme thing, it should be defined, but it's undefined right now. So now you see all of our squiggly errors have gone away, and I'm going to kill the Next.js environment here just to restart it because we changed so many files. Sometimes you think it's working, but it's actually just a coincidence, and when you restart it, it's not working. So that happens sometimes. Same with build. I actually should run a build because sometimes build catches things with the TypeScript compiler that you don't catch in this dev environment. So it's still working, it looks like. And yeah, now we've added session context in I think a very clean way. I think it's time to take a look at our code changes here and see. Sometimes looking at the code changes can at least remind you, what else do I need to do? What did I forget? So what did we do in styled app? Let's see, we did a lot. So we removed having the theme be set there, and now the styled app is just a straight up functional component that looks at the session consumer to get its theme. Oh, the theme's complaining here. Why is that? It hates that it's undefined, right? Because the theme provider, that can't be undefined. That's tricky. I almost wonder how we should handle that. This is another one of those TypeScript mysteries. So like thinking of ways that it could be handled, let's go to our context here. Go to, not processes, session. So one way we could handle it is not having an undefined theme and having the theme here, or having a generic empty theme. But that could get out of hand depending on how empty it has to be, because then you start mocking up primary and all that stuff. I almost feel like just importing the theme here and saying that the initial state is the default theme. And then in the session, in the use session context state, maybe we wouldn't need the default theme here. And it would just, well, we need it here too, though. I guess here is where it could not be default. And at some point, well, I don't know how many places we should put default. Should be an empty object. I was thinking about making an empty object. Let's try that, because I've had fights with TypeScript over that. See, now it's complaining for a different reason, but it might be okay if we find a different way to define this. Property theme is missing, right? What if we say it's optional instead of how we had it before? I just feel that the theme provider is going to complain there, and then you just get in this fight with all the different pieces of TypeScript. Let's go over here to this session. And so let's say the theme is optional, not undefined. And let's see how far that gets us. So now, where was the issue? It was in styled app. Yeah, so it's still complaining. Another way we could fix it here is if here we allowed there to be a default, you know? And how does that look in session context? It's nice here that this can be an empty object, because we don't necessarily know if the theme has been set in the session, and it might not be. But here we're setting it, honestly. We set it here. We set it to default, and we would be reading it. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sense of where default should be, I guess. I feel maybe default should be in the initial context state. And then in this scenario here, where would it be getting set from? I guess it wouldn't even, because this is just returning that. It's not even caring what the initial state is. Let's just, yeah, let's just leave it like this, and let's just put a default in here within the styled app. So it's almost like a backup for the styled app component, that if the session consumer fails us, we have a default theme, you know? I don't know if that completely makes sense, but because now we're loading the default theme in 2 places, which I don't like. But let's just give it a shot for now. It's going to stop it from complaining. So that stopped it from complaining at least. So now if the session consumer, which has an optional theme that did not give us one, then we use default. And I guess here in the future, what we could do is that themes will be set by reading the theme from the user. So if we go user data, let's assume that's the user data. And if they have theme, then we would yeah. Essentially what we'll do is we're going to be passing like this, like user theme, and user theme might be undefined. And I think that's an important thing, because it's okay that it's undefined, because our styled app is going to have this default here. And then when the user sets it, then it will become defined, and then it'll use that instead of the default, is my thinking. So actually we don't need default here. And yeah, we could actually just pass nothing for now, including here. But let's do this just as a mock. I don't know if we want to do it as a mockup. It'd be like user set theme, and it's like, can I set undefined on a const? I don't know if I can, just for a commenting point of view. So that there would essentially. So now we've only got default theme in one place again, which is in the styled app, which I kind of like, because now it's almost like a backup. But this looks silly for now, because I'm not properly grabbing it where you would care to grab it from. And I'm just wondering if we care to do that. Let's not for now, and let's just say undefined here. At least now we've commented out, or we've made note of the fact that theme probably should be set. Maybe we should make a comment here, actually. Sometimes the comments can be good, you know, the to-dos at least. I like those. So got another message here from Shradan, wanted to check out. And let the hooks worry for loading it from the user's sessions. Sorry, it could be set in the session. And let the hooks worry for loading it from the user's session storage. Yeah, is that where I put it in the end? So this is the session part here. And yeah, I would be grabbing it from the user thing. But then I think at the moment, I like the idea that a default could be on the component, because we know that the component wants the kind of theme that's here. Let's just go with that for now, and we can overthink it later, right? This is where you get on deep dives with how to structure things, and typically you're not doing a live stream at the same time, and you have time to kind of whiteboard some stuff and think it out, and it could be hard to think some of that stuff out loud, because sometimes you just get in loops where you're like, oh, I do it that way, and then you kind of hit a roadblock, or you hit a dead end, and I don't want to give you guys too many of those dead ends. So let's just stick with this way for now, and we'll fix it when the time comes. And I'm going to write a to-do here that says load user theme from, let's say, the local storage. That's probably where we're going to end up saving the session context. So let's just say it's going to be there. Load user theme from session storage. That makes sense. And then we have the default here, which should fix our app. So there we go. And if we run prettier again, it's probably going to fix that line, because that line goes over our 80 character limit now. Component would be using just the theme. I think so. I'm not completely, I might have missed the context on his question there. Sorry, I'm just trying to juggle some questions at the same time. I appreciate them, keep them coming. Here we go, he's messaged again here. And since the provider sets the context, to me it makes sense to keep the default there. In the context, perhaps? Right. I think I see what you're saying. Let's just leave it here for now, but totally, when I have more time to think about your comment, which I will think about it, we might change it in the next episode. And if we change it, I'll throw some credit out where credit's due, man. But for now, let's just keep it like this, because it stopped the squiggly lines of hell that I don't want. And let's just look at what we have again and see if there's more of these hell squiggly lines. So we got our styled app. What did we do to our styled app in the end? So right, we're not passing the theme in. We're getting it from the consumer. But if the consumer doesn't have anything because the user never set a theme, then we're just going to use this default theme, which we're only loading right now in the styled app component, which is how we had it before. So we haven't changed that. But we don't pass it here anymore. It's going to be in the session, or it's not going to be there at all. And in that case, we use the default. So I like that for now. And actually, maybe this default looks better, like out of here. I kind of prefer it out of there and like that. I think I actually like that better, and that's kind of more how it was before. And that might have even made the line small enough. No, the line's still going to be just as small. Let's see if Prettier has any rethinking of that after making it, adjusting it. Yeah, this is where I really should add Prettier to onsave. I think it did change it a little bit. I saw it change it there. So let's see how it changed it. Oh yeah, cool. So it's more of a one-liner. Oh, right. So even the theme didn't change. Nice. Yeah, I actually like that. So I've essentially moved the loading there down to there into the session consumer. So see, that's something with refactors. I refactored it, and then it became more obvious that, oh, I didn't even change this. Okay. I like it. Let's go with that for now. For that file. Let's see the other files. So we got the session context, right? That's pretty much just a copy of the process context, in which we say that there could be a theme. Oh, did I have undefined here still? Oh, that's just because it's optional now, which we've accepted as optional because for initial, we're passing that. And the session may never even set the theme. They might just stick with default. At the moment, they can't even change it. So there you go. So we're not passing any defaults here, but we could, and that might make sense to pass it there. And that might be what Shradan was saying. And I'm going to think about that. And that might make sense to do that in the future. I probably will, but we'll see. Yeah, does that make sense? Now you got me thinking on it, man. You got me thinking, which is good. Oh yeah, because I pass it here, right? But then I just don't want to have to think about types anymore because I'm probably going to end up undefining a type or something. But I'm gonna solve this thought process, and we'll see if I should put it here. And if I do, I'll have to fix a type somewhere, and I'll show you guys next time. So for now, cool. There's the session provider. Looks good. What do we got here? Session context. Yep, I've done a very simple context in which I don't even really return a theme right now. So we're not relying on the context at the moment, but we probably should. Yeah, I got to rethink it, but let's just leave it as is for now. And we've added the provider here, right? That looks cool. That will be the same no matter what. That's not going to change. We didn't need the styled app types anymore, which I like, but we've had to add the session type, which is this, yeah, makes sense. The theme should not have been passed as a prop from the app because that's just too high level to be passing props down, I think, the way that we were expecting to. So I think that's enough to say that we've created a session context. So let's do that. Did we? I committed my process loader, didn't I? Yeah, we're on the context now. So yeah, I built, did I copy that? Built session context. And used with theme, we might as well say, because we started using it right away. We didn't just build it. We could have, to make the commits even cleaner, we could have done the actual usage of the theme in the next step. But it's only one setting, so I think it's okay to slip it in there. It looks good. We overviewed it. Let's commit, right? Setting default theme and create context. Maybe. Yeah, I'm so confused now where it makes sense to set the default. I think one thing to at least think about is that it should be consistent. So we don't have many defaults yet, so it's still up for discussion. And I think setting them as high as possible might make sense. So we probably should think about, yeah, like setting it in the context, like you're saying in the comments there. But yeah, I need to think about it more. I think you're probably making sense, but this is something with programming too that happens sometimes where I feel like I'm getting stuck on the problem, not just because I'm doing a stream, but also sometimes I have to step back or just move on to something else. And definitely, I mean, I've made it to do, so it's something I'm going to think about. But you have to do that sometimes with programming, or you get stuck, you get frustrated, you don't make any progress. So sometimes it's good to move on. And then think about the ideas later, and kind of make a note of them, which luckily they're logged in the chat. So I really appreciate that, Shradan, and I'll think about it. But I think it's time we can finally move on to the window. We want to have a window, right? We want to put our Hello World app in a window would be a goal that I have. So let's think how to do that. So we want to make a window component, I would say. So let's go into components. It's going to be a system component, I would bet. So let's make our system component and call it window. It's probably going to be have JSX in it, so we'll say TSX here. And I'll do my usual typing of the defaults here, window. We know it's going to be a functional component, so we'll do that. And we're going to need the children, most likely, from it. Because we're going to be, what's the window going to be? It's going to be its little box, it's going to be its title bar, and that's it. And then the rest, it just dumps in the children is essentially the process component in this case. Export default. Export default. I'm just going to mistype this a couple more times, guys, so you can watch me make a mess of a simple word like that. Okay, so we're going to import FC. We're going to put it to be a type. Wait, what's it saying there? Fix this. Oh, yeah. That's a weird autofix message. I don't like that message. And it's complaining here because why? Oh, this probably should be like that. No. Why is it complaining? Type children void is not assignable. Oh, I have to return something, right? Like, let's just say I return children. Sometimes that's a tricky thing with the IDE where you start seeing errors and it's just like, dude, I'm not done, you know? Like, what's it complaining about here? React node. Let's just keep typing. Let's just keep writing the thing that we want to write and let's just go from there. So what was I saying? I said I wanted it to be a box. Let's make a styled component right away. Let's do like test-driven development. We're doing style-driven development now. So styled component first. And call it a styled window, of course. And let's just remember how to do styled components because I'm still pretty new to them. So let's just copy this piece here, like so. So we got our styled component, and I've done some thinking about it. Let's actually jump to the browser for a second and just switch context for a second. I wanted to talk to you guys about HTML5. What's it called? Semantic tags. Yes, semantic elements. So essentially semantic elements are a way with the HTML to try to just to better describe what their purpose is. So you see here, instead of just using a div for everything, you can have a header, you could have a nav, you could have a section, you could have an aside, which I very much like. And if you look at the description for section, section is an element defines a section in a document. According to the W3C, a section is a thematic grouping of content, typically with a heading. That sounds like a window to me, to be honest. And there's a few others that are similar, like article and stuff. But I think we're going to try to do that. We're going to do section for the window. And then within the window, we're going to have a header, which is going to be essentially the title bar. And the title bar is going to have an H1, which is going to be the main header element. And that's going to be the title of the title bar. And it's also going to have a nav element. And the nav is going to be the minimize, maximize, close. Those are essentially types of navigation, I believe. So that's my current idea for how I'd like to do the semantic HTML. And it's just structural for the most part. I don't think any CSS comes along with any of this. But it's definitely good practice to try to use these in certain scenarios. And that's why here, instead of an H1, I'm going to say it's a section. I'm going to say my styled window here. And we're going to use it here, like so. And we actually can do, we're going to just return straight JSX, hopefully. So we're just going to do that. So now we have our styled window. And what are some things we care about for our styled window? Yeah, do we care about much right now? I guess the background color can matter so we can see what a window is in comparison to the background. So let's say the background color is gray, let's say. And it's probably going to hate just calling it gray. We'll use the official HTML name for it here. And I've already made a mistake by doing this, by the way, because what do we want to use? We want to use the theme. So let's just copy this theme code we have here. I'll take that color though. I actually like that color. So let's paste it from here and then cut out that color that we wanted. And what do we want to call this? Colors. Let's call it the window color for now, I guess. But we might want to think of a better, let's call it, just to say window because it's in colors, right? So in colors, it's a window. And we're using that as the background color. And we might want to say window -bg. I don't know. We need to think, I mean, not dash, maybe an underscore or something. We need to think of how we'll do the semantics here, camel case, or if it even makes sense to be doing this. For now, let's just keep it simple and just say we have a window color. So now we've added to our theme. So let's go in and change all the things we need to change when we add stuff to our theme. So first we'll change the type. So we have a primary and now we have a window color, which is also a string. And then in the themes, we have to set that window color, which is, we've decided that. And because this is JSON, we have to format it this way. So there we go. So we have a window color there. We have it in our type and we're using it here. So you see the complaint's gone away from there. That part's good. And now if you click a dot on the colors, you see we got primary or window. So that's some cool little autocomplete action there. And we got our styled window and we want to dump in the children like so. So there we go. So now we have a very simple window component. Doesn't do anything right now, but it's a window and all it does right now is wrap whatever children are passed into it to a styled component. So which is a section element that has the background color of whatever our theme sets the window color to. So very, very nice in that it's dynamic. And let's just get right into moving this out of here into our styles. It'd be cool if there was like a button like refactor into styles, click, and it just did it for us. But there's something to be said for doing it ourselves. It kind of gets us in the habit. So within styles, we're going to make a folder called components. And within components, we're going to make a folder called system, because that matches our structure here, components, system. And within there, we're going to call it a styled window dot TSX. No, it's just TS, isn't it? That's a good question. I've confused myself if that is. Let's check the title here. Oh yeah, so here's actually another one that I messed up as far as both of these, man. So both of my styles I was using TSX for, and I don't think I needed to. Let's just rename these now. It's pretty minor. I mean, I know it's adding to the commit, but let's just rename these because I don't see any JSX in here at the moment, at least, unless I'm blind. So I think we'll just fix that. Yeah, I like that better. And where did our styled app go? I'm just interested. Our styled app is a specific app, is it? I forgot what we call it. Yeah, that's kind of a weird wording because we call it a styled app, but yeah, I guess it is. It's not a styled component in the same way though. That's one thing that's confusing, is that I'm using the terming of styled to typically mean a styled component, but in this specific case, it's not quite that. But that's going to be the exception to the rule. I do like that in the styles folder, we're calling things styled and then the version of what it is. So I am going to use that. So let's cut this out of here, export it here like so. We bring our styled component stuff. And this is another thing to think of whenever you think, should I make this into its own styles file, is there shouldn't be any imports to styled components within the app, within the components themselves. Leave that to the styled components, you know? So that's a good test. We'll export that as the default. And there we go. So we moved our styled window into here, and we're going to do more with this in the future. I think there's going to be a lot of defaults we're going to need there. So now we just import it here, nice and simple. It doesn't know that one. Sometimes it knows them, sometimes it doesn't, right? From styles dash components dash, oh no, dash system dash styled window. That is a mouthful of a path. So very clean there. So you can see the window is essentially just wrapped of a styled window right now. And the styled window, all we got is a background color. And we've moved the global style. So let's quickly redo this. Now, the changes we've done aren't going to make any difference at the moment because we're not even using the window. So the only change that's made a difference is the fact that I renamed those two styles from TSX to TS. Just got another message here from Shradan. VS Code doesn't auto-suggest for default exports. For named, it mostly does. Oh, okay. That's a cool little tip there. Because, yeah, I'm always confused. Like, when is it going to suggest? I mean, that makes absolute perfect sense because it doesn't know that it's called that. I could call it something else. But, yeah, now I'm thinking, is every time where I expected it to work and it didn't work because of the default export? And it very well might be. So that's where it's good to have your expectations adjusted, and that might be the case. So we'll start testing that theory next time I expect it to work, you know? But I think you're probably right once again, sir. So yeah, so we got our window now. Do we want to use it yet? I think we do, you know, because it's so contextual to its purpose that why not just make it part of the commit? Honestly, no big deal. So let's do it. So where are we using the window? We're going to use the window on the process loader, was my decision, I believe, which is a system component called process loader. Right. So in here, we need to make the distinction between a component that is supposed to have a window and a component that isn't supposed to have a window. And it could be tricky in that I don't yet want to say system components and apps, because not every app will have a window either, such as the WebAmp, WinAmp. That one has its own style, so it doesn't need a window, you know? So I'm not gonna say there's system components yet. And this will get even deeper too, and this is something I need to think more about, and it's something my friend Daniel suggested, was the idea of like a virtual desktop system. And essentially having our desktop, maybe that will be a base component, and then you could have multiples of them. So you could have a different taskbar with a different theme on one virtual desktop and another virtual desktop with a totally different look, and they could have their own windows open. I don't know how that would be from a resource point of view, but it's a cool idea. And then they could have different wallpapers and stuff too. So you could get pretty deep into it. And at some point, maybe we'll think about virtual desktops. And I'm hoping that I'm making this generic enough where when we get to that point, it won't be a huge change, you know? It shouldn't be really, honestly. So that's my hope, because I do want virtual desktops. That's a cool feature. I think Windows 10 has it, but I don't use the virtual desktops, to be honest. But being able to have it is cool. So one day we're going to get there. Maybe sooner than later. If I can get Daniel to kind of maybe give me a PR or give me a suggestion on his idea, because his idea was quite well thought out, which is cool to think that people are thinking out all these ideas for my project. It's our project now, but it's cool that people are invested in the idea. So I appreciate it. So let's do this window part now. We're just going to do it very basic for now. So we're going to assume that each process also has a Boolean called hasWindow. It might not. Maybe if it doesn't have the Boolean, then that means by default that it does not have a window. But for now, I'm just going to be explicit and say they all have to have hasWindow. So we're going to try to do some make it nice and clean here. And I'm going to try to do it this way with this ternary conditional thing. If that's what they call it. I forgot what they call this. I think it's a ternary operator. No, I don't remember, to be honest. But it's just a condition saying if hasWindow is true, do this. Otherwise, do that. And I really like this version of shorthand when I can sneak it in there, but I can't always sneak it in there, you know? So when it has a window is not what we care about for this one. So that in that scenario, we do that. And when it has a window, we just pass it into the window. Whoops, what happened there? Window, and we do that. So that looks extremely simple. I think I don't need this bracket. There we go. So from a code writing point of view, that looks pretty clear. And can we import window? Maybe not, right? If it's a default, let's see. And it did not work, and it's a default. So your theory pans out. Why am I putting the word default there? You got me confused now, man. And that was a component, and it's a system component. See, that's what I like. That's in the right spot. When you go to type a path and you think, okay, I'm looking for a component for a system one, and it's boom, boom, boom like that. That's when you know you got the right path. But sometimes it's not like that, and that's when you know you don't have the right path, I think. So this looks pretty clean right now, pretty straightforward. One thing I'm going to change here is I'm going to have the key part be on the window. And do I even need the key? Probably, right? But why is it not complaining right now? It's something that interests me. Oops. Yeah, I don't need. I'm confused if I need the key or not. I feel like I should because I'm iterating over these, but I'm not sure yet. Let's slip the key in where I think I need it, but I wonder why it doesn't complain, you know? Maybe I'll make a little to-do note about that. Because I really liked it when it complains when I do stuff wrong. So when I have questions, by the way, this is another, I don't know if this is standard, but I do queue. You know, like how people do to-do and then blah, blah, blah. I'll do a queue. I have a question, you know? It could be a to-do as well. The to-do is to answer the question, so it's debatable. But do I need key, which I might have in my clipboard. I'm copying it again. Question mark. So I'm going to get back to that in a minute when I'm running it, but let's fix this first. So hasWindow, it does not yet exist as part of it, of a process. So we need to fix that. So let's fix the types first. So we know that process type is right here, and as we see, component is all that's been put there. So now we want to say hasWindow is also an option, and we're going to make it required for now. Good, so that part was simple enough, and that probably stopped this from complaining already. But now we need to put it somewhere. So let's see. And actually, let's not inspect the code yet, but if we inspect the code, you'd presume that this is not yet wrapped in a section, and we're going to double check that it now is when we build it. So what do we need for that? We need to clarify that this process, which is in the process directory, does indeed require a window. So you see here, it's not been written. Why is it complaining here? Oh man, how long has this been wrong? Why didn't I catch this? Maybe, yeah, that's weird. Why didn't I catch this? This is where I need to do an npm run build to see the mistakes I made, because I feel like this has been wrong for a while. This should have been contexts process, right? Yeah, there we go. And now it's complaining because I don't have hasWindow, right? Okay, so I fixed types, but I didn't know they were broken. That's something that, that's another note to make. To do, check type errors on pre-commit. I don't know what'll be required for that. That's something where I wanted to have that DTS lint, but it was becoming a real headache to get it to work properly with the IDE. But that might be something to revisit because I did some commits where I did not update this. Let's look for process directory anywhere else because that's legacy, isn't it? It's legacy being used that way. Yeah, it's not imported as a type anywhere else. Everywhere else it's fine, but that was something I needed to fix. So now that this is fixed here, let's add our has window, which is required. So let's say it's true, and there we go. So let's see what happens when I inspect here. Let's see if I can put this somewhere that you guys can see it, because it's not showing me the drawer. Well, I'll just tell you guys, it did not work. So what happened? Let's see here. What have I? Oh, right. I haven't. What happened? What is the problem? What is the problem, guys? Let's try a reload and see, because I'm not seeing it, but I'm sure it's something obvious. This is something too where there's obviously a step missing sometimes. Maybe there isn't in this case, but there will be. And my debugging process is to just try to run it again sometimes and just be like, what's wrong, you know? So it's reloading here. Oh, okay, there we go. So that was it. Maybe it's because I changed some file names or something, but Next.dev was not complaining, but reloading it did fix my problem. So now if I do an inspect here, I mean, we can see because it's gray, but if I inspect here, it should be wrapped in a section, and indeed it is. So now it's wrapped in a styled window. So now you see how our hello world has a window, basically. And that's pretty clean like that. So let's get rid of ID for a second here to see if it complains, because I was interested if it does. And do I see anything in the console? Ah, yes. So you guys don't see it here. I can't attach my windows. My little hello world example is so small that I can't show you guys the console here where I'd like to. But I can tell you that indeed there is a console error now complaining about exactly that. So you want to have these keys. You need these keys. It's interesting that it didn't complain here though. I need to figure out if there's a linting rule that I can add. So I'm going to keep this here. Now it's a to-do, because I definitely shouldn't have removed that, but it didn't complain. So I'm going to say add linting rule to catch key required. I'll do that later in the next addendum, but it's something that's necessary because I shouldn't have been able to remove those without it complaining. Maybe it got confused because of all this logic it's behind, but I don't think so. I feel like that's an ESLint rule, so we'll see. So what have we done here? Oh man, we've changed a lot. Let's close all these files and go back to our notes for a sec here. I think I got another message too from Shradan. You can dock the developer tool window outside the browser. Yeah, I know. Usually I can. I think it might be because I'm using Canary and oh, you know what it is? It's the way that I've ran this Canary instance of Chrome. I actually ran it as like a special app specific thing. That's why there's no address bar and stuff. So I think it's complaining about attaching the way that you're expecting it to. There might be a way, but the normal button that I would expect to properly reattach to the window is not there. So, and I don't want to hunt around for it right now. So I see in my notes here, I actually was expecting to do these as 2 steps, but I've done them all as one. No biggie. So before we get to this one, let's double check what we've changed here now. So in the process loader, we now wrap the window based on if the has window boolean is true, and the opposite if it's false. We don't wrap it in the window. I don't know if that's the opposite. I've added a note here to do some linting rules in the near future. And these can be nice to add sometimes. You don't want to get your code filled with these things, but sometimes they can be helpful. Other times what you want to do, especially if you have like an issue management system, is you'd go to the GitHub repo and make an issue to say, this is something to add, you know? But we're not going to do that here because I just want to add the notes here for now and just keep everybody here. I think in another video, we're going to start talking about GitHub issues. Once we have more of these to-dos, maybe, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe in the next episode, I'll take all these to-dos and make them into issues so that we can start showing how that process is, and then maybe in the next stream, we look at the issues and we deal with them, you know, and users can make new issues or new comments or whatever they happen to do. Process loader looks good. Let's go on to the window. So the window, yeah, we've made that very simple. So it's just styled component of wrapping on the window there with the children. And in the near future, we're going to add the title bar will go here, I believe. But we don't have that yet. And we could add a ton more stuff at some point, but we'll get into that. And this is where we're going to have to pass ID. Remember how I was saying eventually I want to pass ID? We will have to pass it to the window because the window has to control, minimize, maximize, and close of processes. So it needs to know the ID of which process you're telling it to close. And we'll need to pass it to the component, because sometimes we're going to want our components to do stuff like saving things to session or that kind of thing. We might not need it right at the start, but eventually we will. So there's the window that we made. We renamed the global styles to not be TSX. Totally a not related commit, but I'm going to slip that in there. We added window as a color option to our styled types. Our theme for styled components. We also added it here with a default, or with the default in the default theme, we added it. And like I was saying before, there'll be another theme here at some point, Mac or whatever. And it's going to have to, it's going to have to meet the exact same stringent standards there. And we'll get into testing that if that doesn't perfectly work right now. It looks like it is though. But as the app gets bigger, we might see things that are misconfigured that we don't see in a simple Hello World app. So there's our styled window, which is also very straightforward. We're just setting the background color, which is that new color we added. The title we've moved here. Again, like I said, we moved it from TSX, same as we did to global style. We've added the has window boolean to the process, and we've added it here, and we've also fixed this, which we should have fixed a long time ago. And we got a note here that we need to be pre-commit checking also for the types, because that also got slipped by. So yeah, we did a lot here. I think we can make a commit, and let's say we added window. We added window. I mean, we also added the styled window. We added it in the right place, but that's all kind of a given, I feel like. So added window component wrapper. I guess it's a wrapper. So with a W. So we run it here. We spike my CPU to 100% for a while. Hopefully not forever. I think we're going to get some poor connection messages there. Yeah, that one might have roughed up my CPU a little bit because I changed quite a few files, but it did pass, so that's nice. So now we got windows, we got styled windows. So something I'd like to do before we go any further is I'd like to do a build, because I'm interested to see if anything else is broken that we need to fix. And also, I'm not 100% sure we're going to get to this desktop background thing. We can discuss it a little bit. But let me reorganize these a little bit. I want to leave the desktop thing to the end, and I think we'll just discuss the ideas, because, I mean, maybe I might even have a new computer by next week. A reason I hesitate to talk to you guys about the background and start getting into it is, as you know, I have an animated background on my old thing, and I wanted to show the animated background, but I'm worried that my computer is kind of going to choke the stream a little bit, and I don't want to risk it right now. I might risk it in another video or in a test later this week, but we'll see, because I'm going to show you guys the web pages, and that's going to load this animated stuff, and we'll see if it chokes my system or not. And we'll see if we have time to build the component itself. But it's going to be pretty simple, the desktop background component. And again, I was telling you guys I'm not 100% decided yet on if we want to have a desktop wrapper that has a wallpaper applied to it, or if the wallpaper is a component, the taskbar is a component, like what do we want to have inside what kind of thing. And that gets into the whole virtual PC thing, so it needs some thinking there. But we have enough. If we don't decide it today, which we probably won't, then we might start just making a background component, because that's simple enough. But back to what I was saying I wanted to do is I want to do a build, and I want to see if there's any problems. And then we can also do a little Lighthouse test at the same time, which was part of the agenda anyways. So let's do npm run build. This might also kind of choke the CPU a little bit. I don't know if we've done any builds yet with you guys. I think we have. It's not totally choked my CPU yet, but so a good reason to run these builds, and this is stuff that's not always caught in the lints and the other tests. It went okay, but the build does do more. So you are going to catch errors in builds that you're not going to catch in other things sometimes. No files changed. You see it made another folder here called .next where it has the build, which is cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do npm run start, and this is going to run the production build. So this is different than npm run dev. Why did it break? Because I had the dev version running. So let's kill the dev version. Let's kill some of these command windows that I have open. So we just have the one. So now we're going to do npm run start, and that works only after you've done a build, by the way. Whereas npm run dev builds on the fly, but it builds a different version. So we want a more cut down version. So I'm reloading hello world with our version. Oh, it actually loaded. It's so fast I didn't even notice. So we're gonna view the source here. I'm just gonna cut the source. You guys aren't gonna see me viewing it, but just trust me. And then we're gonna go to the browser because I wanted to test to do the W3C validator again. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, W3C. And I'm going to do direct input. So now the difference from last time when I did this is last time the code was slightly different because it was a dev build. I don't know how different it was, but this is the production build. This is the same kind of thing that your users are going to run. So I want to see if this passes the validation in the same way. And it might complain actually because of section and a few other things. It didn't complain. Nice. We passed. Great. And you can see section in here somewhere, like I was saying. So you see now it's wrapped in section with a styled window, the H1 title, hello world. So there's our code right there. Cool. And I thought it might complain because sometimes it complains. It'll say like section should have this. I think it worked in this scenario because our title, because hello world was already wrapped in an H1. But I believe the W3C validator considers that a requirement, that section has an H1. And that's okay because the title bar that we make wrapped in the semantic header component is also going to have an H1. And I think that'll be okay. I think it's okay to have the H1 nested within a header, but we're not there yet. So it passes W3C, great. Now here's going to be an interesting test. And I'm going to have to go back to the browser actually because I'm going to test it here. So what I wanted to do, so let's load the app here, is I want to test Lighthouse again. And I think I showed you guys this last time, and I'm gonna see now I can dock properly with this window. So there we go. So I'm attached. I got my Lighthouse. Now I don't know how this is gonna work because I'm doing a stream, but I'm hoping to give you guys a surprise here and for this to work out. So let's try it out. This is our build. This is after all the work and all the stuff we've done. Let's do our generate our report of our Lighthouse build. Come on, Lighthouse gods. Oh, accessibility. Why is it complaining about that? I was worried about performance, but now we broke something in accessibility, guys. What did we break? Background and foreground colors do not have sufficient contrast ratio. Wow, I didn't see that coming. And it's totally true. It's perfectly good accessibility because this hello world is hard to read. It might even be unreadable for some like colorblind person. So let's fix this because I wanted the surprise to be showing you everything being 100. And I was worried about performance, but that worked. But then I failed you guys with my accessibility. So let's fix the accessibility of the colors, as simple as that is. And it's as simple as changing the color in our theme. Let's make it a higher contrast. So the primary color is what hello world is right now. Something I don't like about the theme actually being in JSON is that it's not going to suggest to me anything CSS related. It doesn't even know I'm in CSS here. So there's a bunch of ways I could do it. I could go into the styled components here, like so, and I could change the color here, just to get the color I want. You know, like I could do red. And see this, it knows. So now when I do red, now I can hover over it. And why is it not working now? You knew it was a color a second ago. Now I'm not getting the suggestion for how to change the color red to what I want it to be. So let's just go to, this is misbehaving. So rather than figure out why it's misbehaving, let's just go to the browser quick and let's just get the HTML colors. Sometimes I do this just to get some colors. I was hoping to get the hex of a color. Yeah, this one's good. That looks like a good contrast. So there we go. We got that color we need now. Go back to our theme. So now we're going to set our primary color as actually this little orange gobbledygook. And let's have everything be capitals. I don't know if that's a rule, but I like it that way. We got to turn this off. We have to rebuild. That's how tedious building is. That's why I prefer the dev environment, because if every time I do a change, it just reloads and rebuilds and everything. Whereas this is, you kind of got to build again. But let's hope that we've got enough contrast now and we have our accessibility back where it should be. We do a start here. We go back to our browser. The colors are going to look different. Okay. Oh, that's still a rough one. We'll see if it cares about contrast. If so, I'm going to go black for my next one. But let's just try. Come on. Accessibility gods, be on my favor. Okay, guys. The same thing about the color again. Yeah, okay. Let's just go black. Probably should have done that the first time. That's a contrast. So black is it zeros or Fs? I always forget for some reason. Zeros, right, guys? Zeros or Fs? Someone want to tell me in the chat? Is black Fs or zeros? This is why I wish it auto-completed this. I wonder if I change this to JavaScript and make it an export instead of a JSON file, if that will allow me to have autocompletes. I think it will, and I think that's worth noting. I'm going to make a note to do that, actually. Actually, let's just, well, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with you guys of trying that. But that's an idea, so I'm going to make a note of that for the next show notes, next stream. What did I say I was going to do next stream? Actually, yeah, so let's say making the GitHub issues from the to-dos, right? We want to do that next stream so we can see what the GitHub issue process is like. And I also want themes.json turn into a TS to get better CSS auto IDE. I'll reword that later, but you guys get what I'm talking about. Got a message here from Kumar. So it is zeros. Thank you, sir. VS Code has an extension for displaying colors over the hex color. Yeah, no, it works for me in JS in like TS files. It's just not working for me in this JSON file where I have to use strings in this format. But there might be an extension that it just raw detects this, which is cool. But I don't know if I want the extension or if maybe I do want to just make this dynamic, because I'm already kind of tired of working with JSON and having to be like always using double quotes, always quoting my keys, you know? If I just export this, that'll go away. And I don't think I lose much, you know? So we'll see if I keep it JSON. For now, I'm going to. And yes, you're right. I only need 3 zeros. So let's do that. So yeah, I'll just make a note for now on that though. So let's build yet a third time, guys. And if it complains again about the accessibility, we're just going to give up. But I think black has got to be good enough, honestly. That's contrast right there. So let's see. Example color highlighter. Color highlight. Okay. Yeah, that'd be... Oh, yeah, I like a color highlight. Yeah, I need to see if I should add some more extensions. But I also want to think about getting it out of being a JSON, because I'm not completely happy with how JSON requires a lot. Okay, there's some contrast, right? So now it's the drum roll. Now it's the drum roll. Come on. This is our app passing Lighthouse test. Yes, look at the fireworks, the beautiful fireworks. So we did it, guys. That is a Hello World Next.js app that passes everything and still has all of this other stuff going on that I've got going on. So I think that's something to be proud about. I mean, it is just Hello World at this point, but we're going to keep an eye on this, and we're going to make sure this stays 100% the entire way. So we're not going to deviate from this. And this is another cool thing you could do. I'm not going to do this yet, maybe in another video, but there's a Lighthouse command line interface tool that you can use. So we could make a GitHub action that, let's say when a PR is committed or when a merge happens or whatever, that it could run this test again and see if anything's deviated or anything's gotten lower. And we might have to be favorable on performance, because performance goes up and down, and it depends a lot on the server too and the system it's running on. So it's not so fair, because if I run this 10 more times, I'm sure performance at one point will be 98 or something, because that happened to me a bunch of times in my tests. But luckily it worked this time, and I got the fireworks. And I don't know if you guys even knew there are fireworks when you do hundreds, but there are. And if you see there's a circle missing here, that's the PWA one, because we don't yet have a PWA. In the future, we'll use Next PWA. It's a GitHub extension plugin package that adds the PWA feature. And we will get more into the service worker side of PWAs, because it does make a lot of sense in our scenario to have service workers and to make this a PWA, I think, because I think it fits well into the idea of what this is and how it should be able to run without internet and that kind of thing. And it should feel very standalone. So we'll get into that, but for now, I'm not even going to check it, because I know I'll fail it because I don't have the things required for PWA. But as soon as you install them, it's very easy, the audit, and it's easy to get 100% on PWA when you're trying to make a PWA. So at some point, we'll have 5 100%, I hope, but we're not there yet. And as the app gets a little more complex, our performance thing is probably going to fail more often while we're using GitHub pages. But in a stream way in the future, I hope for us to get into the web server side of things and to talk more about that, because that's a whole other can of worms that I have a lot of fun with. That isn't really, it's programming in a way, but some people don't get into it, and it could be an interesting thing to talk about, because I'd like to get into the real configuration of the web server. Like, do we use Apache? Do we use Nginx? Do we use Lightspeed? What are the configuration settings? Can we use the Quick protocol? Do we use HTTP2? Or not HTTP2? I can't remember the name, but another protocol they have. It might even be called HTTP2, but I know they call it H2 protocol. I've seen it abbreviated as. But all these little tweaks on the server side that you can do, including CDNs is another one. All that stuff I'd like to get into at some point that I never got into with the other app, because it's always been hosted on GitHub pages. But even when people call it fast, it could be faster if the web server was up to snuff. But GitHub pages, that's not really their concern, including cache settings. That's another thing where GitHub pages is quite generous with the cache settings, And we're not going to necessarily need to do that when we have control of the web server. So, and I got a big capital yes from Stradhan. I'm not sure which that's for, if it's for the web server setup or whatever, but I'm happy either way that you're excited for whatever it is I said, because we're going to do all those things I said, you know, and I'm sure you'll clarify what you're excited about. So what have we done here? I've lost track. All right, we got 100%. Maybe his yes was for 100%. I hope it was. I hope it was for everything, you know. So getting back to it, there we go. We got 100%. We changed this. Let's keep that change, sure. Better contrast for title, sure. Good enough for now. So it's an important commit. 100% yes. Nice. So yeah, I'm happy you guys are excited for those things. I want to get into every aspect of this at one point. And for the rest of it, big yes. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many streams I'll do, but the plans that I have versus how far I got, I mean, there's a huge gap. There's so many things I wanted to do, and there's so many things actually, like skills that I do have that I never even got to get involved with it, you know, like all the server setup, like a lot of the SEO stuff. I never really played with that because that was something I did more at my job when I had an e-commerce website that I was working with, because SEO is a lot more important there, and all these little mini optimizations maybe help, maybe don't, you know. But I got into those more, so I do know about that stuff, and I'd like to play with it one day for you guys and show you guys, but not today. Anyways, cool. So we pushed that as well. Let's push all these commits, by the way, just get them on the server. Let's stop this because that's the build, and we want to run the dev environment because we still have a little bit of stuff we wanted to do, right? Yeah, we're at the 2-hour mark now. I don't know if I have Steam for 3 hours this time, I'm going to tell you guys, but they don't all have to be 3 hours. 2 hours is a lot, actually. But we still got a little more to talk about anyways, so let's talk about it. So we did the Lighthouse and W3C testing. We got 100%. Woot. So yeah, here's something I wanted to talk about. Here's just some considerations to think about. Let's not do any of these today because I need to do more research on them. But here's some things I was thinking about. CSS fixes. I think I alluded to this at the start of the video, and let's just get deeper dive into it. So I have, let's quickly show them here that I have 4 CSS fixes that I want us to consider for the next stream, let's say. Overscroll behavior, touch action, overflow, and display. Things I want us to consider. Do we put it on the HTML tag? Do we put it on the body tag? Do we put it on this desktop container idea that we have? Do we put it on the wallpaper? I definitely don't think we should put it on the wallpaper. That's one of the reasons I was started to think we need some kind of desktop component, because first off, I want to have in semantic HTML, I want to have a main, because that's one of the semantic elements. And I like the idea that the main is where everything's happening. So everything's going to be in main. And I wonder if most of the CSS stuff I'm talking to you guys about should be applied to that, or to body, or to HTML, or to you tell me. Let's think about it, right? Let's look into it. So for overscroll behavior, I was thinking about contain. Let's talk about what it is. Overscroll behavior. CSS property sets what a browser does when reaching the boundary of a scrolling area. That's an interesting one. So it says, by default in mobile browsers tend to provide a bounce effect. So you guys know, like with Facebook and Twitter or whatever, where you push down when it's already at the top, and you kind of get that little bounce, where boom, boom, and it can trigger a refresh or whatever. We don't want that. That's just going to confuse our OS, because our OS is just a box on your screen. All the area is whatever you see on the screen. So all these CSS properties that we're talking about are all about limiting what the user can do in that little box, essentially. So this is one of them. So as you see that bounce effect, we don't really want that. So if you see contain here, default scroll behavior is observed inside the element. This value is set on, but no scroll chaining occurs to neighboring scrolling areas or outside or anything. Now, this is a perfect example where I'm confused on the wording there, so I don't understand, should I put that on my main element or on the body? And as far as putting things on HTML itself, I don't know about that. I don't know about that practice. I think Next.js did that in their code. If you look at the global example that I was given, I'm pretty sure this code I copied straight from them. So they've done margin and padding of 0 on the HTML element. But I just wonder, like, why does any CSS ever need to be applied to the HTML element? Shouldn't the body be all that matters, you know? That confused me. So That's another thing. If someone has an answer there, it'd be interesting to know. I need to do some research on it to know. I don't know. I'm not going to speak out of my beep to tell you guys, you know. So anyways, contain sounds good there. I don't know exactly where it's supposed to be used, but that's one I want to use. We'll think about that. And that's something we're going to apply to the desktop or the background in the next episode, or the body. Next one is the touch action. That's another cool one. And I don't remember how I discovered these. I think I discovered these from problems that I had, but this time I'd rather we just kind of think about them now. Rather than I make something and then have it do a weird scroll effect in mobile that I don't remember for like 10 streams or something. I just want us to look at this now and think about it. So this one's touch action. Touch action CSS property sets how an element's region can be manipulated by a touchscreen user. So this is for considerations for mobile. And this is an important one too. And the setting that I really thought was interesting was called manipulation. So they can do panning, they can do pinch zoom, which is nice because, I mean, depending on what app they open, they still might want to be able to zoom in on my thing. But I don't want them to be able to zoom out any further than the window. That's okay. But what really is important to me with manipulation, that what it does, two things. One of them I don't know if is necessary. One of them is disables double tap to zoom in. That's absolutely necessary once we have desktop icons, because our desktop icons, I want us to be able to double tap to open them. So we can't allow double tap to work as zoom as well. So for that reason, it's got to go. And then as you see in the comments here, they say for browser, what does it say here? Removes the need for browsers to delay the generation of click events. That's cool too, because that's an annoying thing that can occur with touchscreens. But at the same time, I believe that's already not happening because of some code, some meta. I believe there's a meta tag that can also stop that little delay. And I believe Next.js is already slipping that meta tag in. I don't remember which meta tag it is, but I think it's one that like defines a specific width thing, HTTP something. Again, that's another one you'll just have to trust me on, and we can dig into it at a later date. Overflow, that's a really common CSS setting. But again, I'm confused about the applicability of it and where to apply it. I'm thinking that one probably would be on main. Because yeah, you wouldn't want to go out of main. So you wouldn't want, so first off, overflow, let's read that one as well. Overflow sets the desired behavior for an element's overflow when an element's content is too big to fit in the block formatting context. So first off, note block formatting context. That's why I think I want to change display instead of changing this. But in the past, what I did was change the overflow setting to, what did I change it to? I think I changed it to hidden, because I don't want anything outside of main I don't want any overflowing to occur. It's like I said, this is the box, nothing outside of that. And as you see hidden, content is clipped if necessary to fit the padded box. No scroll bars are provided because I wouldn't want you to be scrolling on my operating system. That'd be confusing. And no support for allowing the user to scroll is allowed. The content can be scrolled programmatically. This is something I didn't notice last time. I don't think it matters. I guess it could matter if I get a third-party library component in and it tries to do some scrolling programmatically. I don't know why it would. But what I did read here is that in a scenario where I don't want programmatic scrolling to allow, I could use something called clip, which I didn't even know about overflow clip, but that also disables the ability for programmatic scrolling. So that's another cool one. But then looking at clip, it says if you wish to just set a new formatting context, you could just do display flow root. And that's where I was thinking maybe instead of overflow on either body or main, I can just do display flow root. And then I can say from main, that's my block context. Start from here. And something about that sounds very nice as an idea, that from main is like, even on the CSS level, it's like, this is the base. Because there is actually stuff above main. There's like a div called _next, I think, which is auto-generated. And then there's the body as well. And I don't know where the block context begins. I'm assuming at body. But if we could just move it into main, I like that idea a lot more, And then we just do display of that. What was it called again? Flow root. Where is that? Let's just read its description too. The element generates a block element box that establishes a new block formatting context, defining where the formatting root lies. That sounds good. I want the root to be the desktop. So it's interesting. But this is where my CSS foo fails me, and that I don't know these things necessarily, and I like to play around, and you can start digging into the specs of CSS, and we might get there. I'll probably get there on my own, and then just give you guys my conclusions, and we'll just go with it until it doesn't work, which is a big part of programming, just going with things when they work, and don't fix it if it's not broken. So we'll see if it gets to be like that. But yeah, so you see these CSS things here and why I'm considering them, and I'm considering them for either the desktop or the background. So that's some stuff to think about. That's some stuff we'll probably add next episode when we make this desktop our background. But let's talk about the background now, because that's cool as well. And I'll build up to how I'm going to make it. Or it's going to start simple, and then it's going to get more complex. And another thing I want to do with the background that bothered me is when I did show people my original one, the only background I have is an animated one that is a little bit processor intensive. And I would love for us to be able to have some kind of auto detecting, which is totally possible, to kind of give an assessment of whether I think that they could handle the background. And if they can't, I want us to just default to a color. I think that that's better. And I don't have that now. So some people I know loaded it on older phones and they were telling me nothing worked. Or even on Firefox. Firefox was having a heck of a time with the background. So I need to do some kind of assessment of when the wallpaper starts, is it too slow? And maybe I could change it on the fly even. I don't know. If I detect that they're not handling it well. So that's a cool idea. And as far as what color I would use, I don't know. But I had a cool idea here to use the Windows 2000 blue, because I always liked the blue background from the Windows 2000. I don't know why. It was just a nice blue. And I was looking for it, and everybody disagreed on what the RGB values were. And I thought, is there another way I can figure this out? And then I remembered that this guy here has emulators for all sorts of operating systems that are run in the browser. And the reason I mention this, because it's kind of deviating, it's kind of off track, is I hope one day for us to be able to have something like this. Because this exists, x86 emulation in the browser. So can you imagine if we have in my OS virtual machines, essentially, and it could be like pretend VMs, and it runs these. And I mean, I guess they're not even pretend VMs. They are VMs in a way. And it's something we can do. And I'm not going to go and show you now because my processor would probably chug along. But if you click that link, it will open a boxed version of Windows 2000 that's fully functional. And I went in there and did properties and looked at what the RGB value was for the background. So I know what it is, by the way. So long story short, that's just a cool thing. x86 emulators in the browser exist. We're going to add it one day. But we need to get the performance right before we slip that in, because that is a beast. And this is a thing that I think about too sometimes about making this kind of thing, is how long will this live, Because the app that I'm making, this OS, it actually runs decently smooth playing Doom and stuff, and Doom's like 20 years old or however old it is. So can you imagine in the future, if I'm still alive in 20 years, hopefully, and in 20 years, if this still exists in some form of our proto-internet, a future internet, neo-internet, whatever our neo-internet is, if this still exists, what state will this be in, If I just keep working on this for 20 years. I mean, I don't think I will, but it's one of those projects where it's like, there's no end to it. So, and the reason I say that is how far could it go? This could become like an archive kind of thing where it's like people could look at Windows 2000 on my OS and these virtual PCs. And yeah, I mean, it's almost nostalgic now. How nostalgic will it be years from now, if it survives? I intend to, this app that we're making right now, I don't think I'm going to do another rebuild. I'm rebuilding it now. Maybe we will with whatever the future of TypeScript is 10 years from now. Maybe we'll do another rebuild. But for now, I'm hoping rebuild is done, and then I'm going to work on the server side of it, and then I'm going to host it forever. So you guys are always going to be able to access this OS and customize it the way you want and that kind of thing. Build upon it. That's my dream for it anyways. So that's how I got the color. So let's quickly show you what I'm going to use for the background probably this time, same as I did last time. It's something called Vanta.js. And bear with me here. I'm going to load it, and we're going to see if I can stream and look at Vanta.js at the same time, please. It's still working. Yeah, my CPU is handling it actually. I think the stream's going okay. So this is Vanta.js. And as you can see here, this is a cool one here, but they have all sorts of different ones. And if you look at this one, Waves, that's the one that I use. So I used a customized version of this where I kind of messed with a lot of these settings. I changed the wave height, lowered the wave speed, I think I reduced the shininess. I might have zoomed in a bit. And then they don't actually tell you here how to set the color dynamically, but I figured that out through this customizer, because you see here, they allow you to set the color dynamically here. But if you look here, it's not in the settings. It's actually something they're doing in a weird way on the fly that I, for some reason, they never put in the settings. But I figured out how to do that. And that is a big part of my customization to this, was that I have some code that kind of rainbow affects through the wallpaper colors. And that's even something I wanted to improve, because I'm not happy with the way it does the rainbow effect. That's a whole other rabbit hole where you can kind of go, how do you want to cycle through colors? And there's different ways to cycle through colors depending on how you want the rainbow effect to look, how you want its brightness to look. And that gets into a whole other thing that I hadn't really thought about at the time, but it's something for another podcast, another stream. It'll be fun. For now, we'll probably just use Vanta as is without all the custom color stuff, because it's a lot cleaner and simpler to do that. It's a little jerky. Yeah, the waves might be a little jerky in general, I think. So I don't know if it's the waves that are being jerky to you, or just how it is in general. There's some other cool ones too. Some of these are real kill the system, and some of them are quite smooth, like rings and stuff, cells. So that's one idea anyways. And I wanted to show you a few other ones, because I'm not set on us using Vanta this time. Here's another cool one called Flat Surface Shader. So you see, that's another cool one as well. It might be jerky as well, but this is another one that could become our wallpaper, and it wouldn't need this cursor thing that's annoying. We wouldn't need that. But that's another cool idea. I've always liked the idea of animated wallpapers. I even have one for my phone here. I'll show you my phone quick. You can't really see too much, but you see there's like space there and it's animated. For a long time, I tried to make something like that. I wanted it to make a galaxy. I wanted like statically generated galaxies. And there is code for that, but it's tough. That's a whole other thing. That's like almost getting into game development when you start manipulating the canvas and stuff. And I mean, it's not game development, but you're one step away once you start messing with graphics and stuff. And I never got there. Oh, sorry guys. I didn't show, did I switch to the wallpaper? I'm not sure I did. This is it, by the way. I don't know if I switched to it when I meant to. I think I flipped windows, but that's another cool one. And then the final one, and this one is a whole other bag of noodles, or whatever you call it, because this is a massive library. It's called React 3 Fiber. It's essentially just 3JS. If you guys know 3JS, it's a tool for doing anything in 3D in JavaScript. And people make tons of games in it and everything. And this is, I think, a picture. This is, but this can be what the wallpaper is if we wanted, which is kind of cool. I mean, I think it would probably give somebody a seizure, some of these. Oh, I did switch. Okay, cool. I switched and then switched back, so I forgot. Thank you, Stradhan. Shardhan. I'm sorry I'm butchering your name, by the way. I'm pretty bad with names, so with pronouncing names. But you see, this is another cool one. This one I really like. Like this one here is really awesome. Or even these blocks. Or another cool one I thought was almost like a room. Like if we could make a 3D, a room that feels like 3D, it'd be kind of neat. Like if you're on a desktop, but the wallpaper makes it feel like you're in some three-dimensional environment. That's another cool thing I wanted. And like this person here is another cool one. I could get into a whole other tangent here about a person in the app. If we go to Clippy.js, Clippy.js, that's what it's called. Yeah, here. This is another thing. I've actually made this before, but I never put it in the code, so you guys don't even know about this. But this is a cool tool. And you guys can't see Clippy because he's in the way. Here's Clippy here. So this is something I could add too that's really fun, is you can have this personal assistant, and it can be triggered for all sorts of things. So I've tangented off the wallpaper for a second to show this is something I'm going to re-add next time. In this redo as another component, and it's going to be like an assistant, and he's going to have triggers, so when you do certain things he can suggest stuff. And I'm probably going to use the Merlin one because that's the one I used last time. Oh, he made a little sound there, but that's a really fun one, and he can say all sorts of stuff and be animated. And I don't know if you guys remember Clippy and stuff, but that's just more nostalgia, So those are my choices for the wallpaper, and if you guys know of any other animated wallpapers that you think are cool, we can think about that. There's also SVGs. Instead of just using color, there's another idea of using some SVG textures where you just do a very simple background. And the reason I'd want to do with like a color or an SVG or this dynamic thing is it actually loads faster, because loading an image is kind of slow. even the little ones, because it's a network request as well. And I found that when I've had a dynamic wallpaper, it's actually made my loading scores much better. So for that reason alone, I prefer it that way. And SVG is a nice one for that. So we might do an SVG texture. We might do color. We might do animated. We might do all three. I don't know. So that's my plans for the background anyways. And yeah, those are all the links I have for the background. So I want to move this here, because we're not going to get to this today, unfortunately, because I am getting drained today. And we've actually discussed a lot. I don't know. I think we made some decent progress. Our hello world still looks kind of basic, but there's a lot going on there. Like the hello world is an app right now, and that little gray box is a window, you know? So if I added like 7 lines to that window, it could be draggable. It could be resizable, because there's a library for that we're going to leverage for at first. There's a lot of tweaking that's required, but the snowball effect is going to start. You know, we're starting to get some components. The next time we're going to do the desktop. Next time we're going to do the taskbar. I think we're going to start doing that. We're going to, we're just going to keep moving on with a lot of that stuff. In fact, I wrote this here. Let's just move this to here. So the components we're going to do next time are the taskbar and the desktop background. We're going to clean up these GitHub issues. I'm going to have some notes from my to-dos that we're going to add as well. And we're going to think about that JSON theme again. And I also want to hear your comments. If you guys think you want to move to other things, if you want to tell me, be honest. If I'm moving a little too slow, I can move faster. But I don't want to lose anybody, because I can start pulling in code from my old repos, but I feel like people lose a lot of context there, and they don't get the feeling for what programming is about. So I've always wanted these streams to be giving the feeling of what programming is about and working through it. And today we're going to do this. Today we're going to do that. And you guys are also seeing what little 2-3 hour iterations once a week gets you. We're getting there. We already have all these little aspects, and we're just going to keep building on it. And it still doesn't look too pretty. That's my one disappointment with we're already on episode 4, and it looks like the most basic Hello World app you guys have ever seen, probably. But you guys know, if you've been following along, that there's a lot behind the scenes of this code that's getting us ready to kind of leverage, where it's all going to start falling into place. And then all of a sudden it's like, we'll have a taskbar, we have windows, we have a desktop icon, we have a wallpaper. Like, that's all going to happen in the next couple streams. And then we start whittling down the styling. Now our taskbar actually looks more like a Windows thing. Now our icons are where they're supposed to be. That's when we're going to get deeper into the CSS. For now, we're doing a lot of structural stuff still, but at some point we're going to get deeper into the stylings. Yeah, I get a message from Shredan. This is the most robust Hello World. I think you're right, honestly. I mean, that is my goal, is to make this one of the most robust Hello World apps. I mean, and to build on it, obviously, but I'd like to start with that. I'd like to just keep building this base and just making such a base that we can't let errors slip by, that people can say, oh, this is so clean, that when people come and read it, it's just so easy to read. I mean, I've got some lofty goals for it, and I'm not going to hit all of them, I know. But, I think we're getting there together, and we're figuring it out together. And I think that's the process of programming that I'm hoping you guys will appreciate. So, and it's a big part of the stream. So we're at 2 hours and 24 minutes. I think we'll talk for a few more minutes and round out to 2.5 hours. And that's still a pretty chunky stream, I feel like. I think 2.5 hours of coding is pretty decent. And like I say, we made some progress. Just to kind of reiterate what we did. Yeah, we did a lot of maintenance and housekeeping. We got our updates in. We cleaned up all our little bugs that we knew about, other than the new ones we made. We got our window, we got our styled window, we got session context, we got a process loader. We're scoring 100 in Lighthouse right now. And we've discussed a lot. We've gotten a lot of discussion out of the way. So when we get to the desktop component next stream, we can kind of dive right in. And another reason why I'm kind of ending a little early is I think we need a bit more time to think about it, because as I started coding, as I started working on the session and the loader and stuff, you start to hum and haw about, will it make sense to do the desktop this way? And I could slip it in for you guys right now, and we could do it that way, but I don't want to slip in something that completely is just off track. So we do want to think about that a bit more. And I encourage you guys who are following the streams to also think about these things, and you don't have to have suggestions, but it's cool if you have suggestions, or you think like, oh, I wonder if it goes this way next. And then you guys you don't have to comment, but you can see if it goes that way, and you can see how your instincts match up with my instincts for programming. And sometimes we'll match, sometimes we won't. And that's where we can have adjustments. Like some of the tips that Shradan gave me today, I didn't know those things, about the default export, about a couple things. He gave me quite a few good tips. So I'm hoping to be able to take in those tips and become a better programmer. And in the same way, I hope that I showed you guys something, if in 2.5 hours, 3 hours, I can have one little nugget, maybe one of those, maybe the touch action, the CSS, we haven't even used it yet, but I talked about it. If that gets you thinking about it, then I feel like I've succeeded by making someone a better programmer, in some way, even if it's just me becoming a better programmer. So I get a lot out of these streams. I hope you guys do as well. If you liked it, please give it a like. Like I say, please find a reason to give comments. I love the comments. I like to be able to talk about what's going on here. Any kind of criticism is fine too. Constructive is ideal. If you have ideas for the next stream, we don't have to do the stuff I've discussed here. We're starting to get to the point where we can jump around. If you guys have questions about my old project, or when are you going to get to this? Can we just start doing that? How did you do this? Any of that stuff, please feel free to just throw it in the YouTube comments. And please, if you like what I'm doing, if you like the kind of stuff I'm talking about, you like my delivery style, any of that stuff, even, for whatever the reason, if you want to support me, subscribing helps, because it shows me that I have a following of people who think that what I'm saying is worth hearing. So do the likes, so do the views too, to be honest. But I like to know, something about the subscriber count. I'm not going to beg for subscribers or anything like that. It's not that kind of thing. But there's just something about knowing, like, I think I have 89 or something like that now, and just knowing like those are the amount of people that are possibly going to be interested by the next one. Because when you post something, you don't know, is it going to get this many views, that many views? But when you have some subscribers, at least I know it's getting into front of some people's eyes. So I know something I'm making, it's not going to just get lost in the YouTube abyss. And that's really something I take from it. That I like is knowing that people are getting a chance to be presented something, and maybe even be excited, like, oh cool, Dustin did another video, what tips he got. And I'm going to do some more short ones too, because I know I do a lot of long videos and I want to do some more quick tips. But sometimes I start videos that I think are going to be short, like even that top 15 tips one I did recently about becoming a self-taught programmer. I thought that would take 20 or 30 minutes, but it ended up taking an hour. So it's part of my delivery style. I just have bullet points. I don't script a lot, to be honest, and I like to just kind of wing it and see how it goes. And I hope you guys appreciate that for the most part, because I'm probably not going to change it too much. I'm not the scripted type. I hope I'm not jumping around too much. That is one thing where it's good to have a script. And it wasn't as prepared this week because, like I said, we're getting into the stuff that's more discovery now and less setup. But I think a lot of fun happens there, and I hope some of the deviations and jumping around I did was interesting to you guys. And with that, I think we should call it a night. So thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you, especially Shredan Kumar, for all the tips and for all the chat. It was appreciated. You had a ton of good stuff, and I hope to see some people in my next stream. And thank you for watching, guys. Subscribe, like, all that stuff. Goodbye.